Ready? All right. The time is now 1:30 p.m., and I hereby call the October 13th, 2021 meeting of the Area Board of Zoning Appeals to order. Before we begin, I have a few announcements. The Area Board of Zoning Appeal meeting is being held in person and virtually in the fourth floor council chamber of the County City Building with Zoom video and phone teleconferencing options available via links and phone information posted on our website, sjcindiana.com/abza. In case anyone needs the phone information, our call-in number is 312-626-6799. The meeting ID is 961-6443-3903, and the password is 543186. Due to issues with usage of video by persons viewing the meetings, the county has determined that it is appropriate to require during virtual and partial virtual meetings that members of the public viewing meetings keep their microphones and cameras turned off. The host of the meeting will turn the members of the public's microphones and cameras off because of this. During portions of the meeting where public participation is permitted, the participating members of the public will have their microphone and camera, if any, turned on. If a member wishes to participate in this portion of the meeting, they should indicate this by using the raise hand function in Zoom and/or by messaging the host in the chat function. When on the phone, please use *9 to use the raise hand feature to be called on, and you can use *6 to unmute. To use the raise hand feature on Zoom video, click the controls on the bottom of your screen. In addition to this, we can also take questions via the chat function on Zoom. If you choose to do this, if you have problems with a microphone or anything like that on Zoom, please write or type your name and address for the record, and then we can answer your questions. If you just start typing without that information on there, we can't acknowledge you until you give us that information. If you have two computer video windows open or have a phone line active with a video window open at the same time, you're going to create an echo effect, making hearing you impossible. Please choose one option. In consultation with the St. Joseph County Department of Health, the following protocols will be in place for all meetings held in the council chambers. Face coverings are recommended for everyone in the chambers, including board members, petitioners, presenters, and members of the public. Regarding public comment, we will ask first for any public comment from those sitting in the chambers, and then in the auxiliary seating in the building. Once those in person have provided their comment, those calling into the meeting remotely will be given the opportunity to provide public comment. Those wishing to provide public comment in person should line up on the footprint stickers lining up to the podium. Hand sanitizer has been placed next to the podium. We ask that you sanitize your hands before and after leaving the podium area. Sign-in sheets for public comment have been removed to prevent everyone from touching the same pen. For this reason, if you choose to speak, please clearly state your name and address for the record, and please do not be surprised if you're asked to spell your name for the record. Your speaking time will not start until after this is accomplished. We appreciate your compliance with these guidelines and your patience as we navigate these unprecedented times. Due to wearing face coverings and for the benefit of people listening on the phone, we ask that board members state their name when making a motion in a second. And lastly, please silence your cell phone or turn it off so they do not disturb others at this meeting. Probably ought to update this a little bit. A couple things in there that aren't applicable. I've been ad-libbing a little bit. That being said, this is a 7-member board. All members are present, 5 in person, 2 via Zoom. So that's a good thing. Appreciate everyone being here. May we have roll call, please?
Ms. Deutscher?
Present.
Mr. Hawley?
Present.
Mr. Moffett?
Present.
Mr. Ritzman?
Present.
Mr. Schaefer?
Here.
Mr. Tavernier?
Here.
And Mr. Veldman?
Here. May we have the reading of petition number 1, please?
Location 50510 Little John Lane. Owners Michael and Denise Smith. Requested action, variance 1 from section 154.107, sub C, 2, to allow a 0-foot side yard setback where 8 foot is required. Zoning R, single family district, county.
Yes, right.
Good day, afternoon, everyone. As you see in the staff report in the packet, staff did become aware of this property because it was red tagged by the building department. The building department let the property owner know that due to there being a 0-foot setback or close to it, less than 1 foot setback, a variance would be needed. Therefore, the application was submitted. Staff reviewed it, and looking at the surrounding area, in general, it does not look like it matches the character of the area. In addition, a 0-foot or close to 0-foot setback does not allow ample space to maintain the side of the shed without it having to be moved. And any kind of stormwater coming out from the shed would be deposited onto the neighboring property. And even if there is agreement by the current neighbor who is affected, this is not necessarily carried forward for any future owners. For these reasons, staff is recommending against this granting of this variance. And I would be happy to answer any questions.
Was it in the process of being constructed when they got red tagged? Or has this been there for a while?
I will let the petitioner answer that one.
Any other questions for the board, or from board for staff? All right, this is the petitioner here. You make your way up to the podium, please. If you have anything to add to your petition, please. We just need your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Michael Smith. I live at 50510 Little John Lane in Granger, Indiana.
Is there anything you'd like to add to your petition, sir?
I would. You have 3 criterias, I see, from investigation of this incident that have an effect on the end result of this situation. And one of them is the location will not be out of character or injurious in the community, or will it? And so my answer to that is, I don't think it will, because the majority of the sheds in Sherwood Forest are easily less than the 8-foot setback that the county requires, be it on the backyard, side yard, wherever it may be. And shall mine be the one we're going to single out? Do other shed violations need to be brought in front of the board in order to be addressed? Or shall we just address mine and overlook the other 25 violators that seem to be unnoticed or uncared about because apparently I stepped on someone's toes, I don't even know how or who or what I did, that they called in and made a complaint about my shed, where it's located at. So I don't know what the criteria is for this board. Do I have to bring forth 25 other, individual situations that we can all have these meetings over for the next few months? I mean, if that's what it takes, because I feel like this is a prejudice against me. Someone doesn't like me for whatever purpose, and here we are today. And number 2, does this shed have adverse effects? Well, my shed is so constructed, in other words, will I have to go on the neighbor's property, whatever, to maintain it? And I'm going to take this straight from the manufacturer. The shed is so constructed that it will not need any maintenance at all, including painting, for at least 25 years. That's per the manufacturer. The materials it's constructed out of is such that it's not man-made material. It's not going to need painting. It's not going to rot. It's not going to fall apart. It's got a metal roof. It's been built on a 4 tons of limestone rock with a womanized frame in the ground. So that water that's going to run off, it's going to go right down in the basically a big drain field underneath. That's what we got. And so being so close to the adjoining property is a moot point for me, except for the fact that I'm on the property line. And it's not 8-foot setback. And the third thing is I was reading in your information today, my lot is a large lot. That is true. But if you would look besides, I don't see it. If you can't see from the overhead, about at least half of my lot is unavailable for any of this, because the retention pond, the whole upper triangle, that's all retention pond. Nobody can put anything in there. I have utility easements on 2 sides, on the east side and the south side. And I have 2 drain fields in the yard, which you don't see from that. So in other words, to put this shed down, a lot of people sit them on the surface. Well, I don't think that's a good idea, so I've dug mine a hole there so deep with mine and filled it with rock and with a wood frame. So it has a place to sit, water has a place to drain to. It's not gonna be a mud puddle around it or a pit. And I'm not gonna make any other changes in the area. Yeah, it kinda shows a little bit. I didn't show the second drain field on that drawing, but that's out beyond the other. So back along the fence at that southeast corner, there's high voltage that travels from there up around past past the septic, up around towards the other neighbors, because my power from his power comes through my backyard. So I can't dig anything back along my southeast corner or the east fence line, because there's AEP has lines in there. I have personal lines from my south side of my house towards the southeast corner, where my power, electric, and cable runs back through there, so there's no digging other than where the shed is right now. So I'd like to have a few other things I'd like to say. Why do I need the shed where it's at right now? It's currently 20 feet from my service door of the garage. I'm 71 years old, I have COPD, and my physical exertion capacity is just not what it used to be. After short bouts, my breathing becomes very labored. This was diagnosed through testing in 2017 in the hospital. Having the shed close to the garage is the most helpful location for this condition. My neighbor has no problem where it currently sits, even though he's here today and I see and may have been coerced into changing his mind. I'm currently waiting to get hip replacement surgery. My wife is having her second knee surgery this week. She'll require foot surgery after that, so it would be very difficult if I had to move this, I find a place 150 feet from my house, because moving the equipment in and out of the shed would be difficult, especially in the winter. I have buried utilities, like I said, on the south and east property lines, which would hamper any digging. This is pertinent because the shed sits on 4 tons of rock. I'd already said that. This creates the perfect drain field for runoff water. Having it close also facilitates using my generator for power outage situations. It's in my shed right now, and I have a cord that reaches from my shed to the house and allows me to backfeed my home. This generator is important for me, for my family, to keep power on when the power fails. It can remain in the shed while running, protecting it from theft and inclement weather. It's very heavy and, again, would eliminate ease of use if I had to move it, especially in the winter. So the shed also being close helps prevent against break-ins and theft. And as you can see, for your information, the shed is brand new and definitely not an eyesore. It's awesome, and I quote the building inspector when he was at my house. That's his words, not mine. He called it awesome. Now, I'd like to close with this. 51 years ago, I answered the call when my government asked me to go halfway around the world and fight in the jungles in Vietnam. I did that. I spent 15 months over there. I'm currently receiving a disability for an injury I received while doing that. Today, I'm asking the same government to do something for me. Grant me a waiver or a variance to leave my shed where it's at, on my property, right where it sits now. That's all I have. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate your time.
Thank you, sir.
You have questions for me?
Yeah, we have some questions. Mr. Holly?
How long has this shed been there?
The shed was already up and in place when I got the red tag, because I think his name was John, the inspector, told me he got a complaint. And I understand, and you get a complaint about something, you have to follow up, because he said I wouldn't normally even I don't go around looking for violations. That I'm a busy man and I have things that I have to take care of, and when I get a complaint, I have to come out and investigate it. So he came out and investigated whatever happened, and there it was. And he also got the complaint from me at the same time about my pool, because someone didn't like the fact where the pool is. I have no idea, something. But, like I said, I just think maybe people around me don't like red hair. I don't know what it is. But I don't even know a half dozen people in my neighborhood, honestly, their first and last names. I don't go out and directly try to antagonize people, or I just don't. But I come to find out through your board that that my pool's fine the way it is. I just needed to have a life preserver, which I didn't have, and a 40-foot rope, 25-foot rope, 40-foot rope, and a pole, which I now have. I had the locking ladder. I'm above the legal height as far as not having to have a fence according to the law. So the pool now I got the permit and that's all been settled. But this wasn't just strictly a shed issue. There's something else going on here. I have no idea. Maybe somebody else talking today will enlighten us a little bit on what's going on in the background, because I don't know what it is.
What size is the shed?
10 by 12.
And when was it built?
Oh, I ordered it in May. It came in like, I want to say the end of June or July, and about, I don't know, maybe, I don't know when you put the tag out for me. It was up to at least, I don't know, a month or more. I can't honestly say how long I had it sitting there before I came home one day and there was a red tag on the front door.
Yeah, I don't know when it was red tagged either. I just want to know when it was actually constructed, so.
Yeah, I ordered it, and I'm going to say June or first part of July, and a month later or so, I got the notice.
Did you have an existing shed that it replaced, or is this a brand new
Brand new
structure
one.
on the lot?
Brand new one.
You had mentioned what I call a footer, or the, what holds the barn there, or the shed. Did you install that, or did the company that provided the shed, did they?
No, I had a contractor put
You
that.
had somebody come out and put the rock in, dig it out, and all that?
Yes.
Thank you. Where is your septic system?
You see this right behind the home,
I can't.
the septic tank, that's kind of not drawn to scale. The tank's not really that big, but it's behind there. The well's in the front, southwestern corner. Septic's in the back.
Thank you.
In your additional comments, you said that there's 20 foot between your service door and the front of that shed. Is that correct?
Yeah, my service door on the south side of the garage, and it's about 20 foot there from there to the shed door.
Okay. And
Which
then
makes
being
it really
10
convenient.
by 12, so there's 30 foot basically from that side of your house to your lot line, would you estimate?
I don't think I got 30 feet. I'm saying it's 20 feet, not straight, but from door to door, so at an angle. I don't think I got 30 feet to the lot line. I might have 20, maybe 25, I don't know
So
exactly.
if you would have chosen to put the shed right next to the house, that would have gotten you within the parameters of the 8 foot from the lot line.
Yeah. But then there's another criteria that pops up, right? Maybe you guys don't know that, but I was informed of that through this whole series of things that people, if you're within 5 feet of your home, you have to have certain fire-resistant materials in the shed to satisfy the law
Yeah,
for
it has to
that.
be fire rated, correct.
But again, you're right through my subdivision, I see a lot of homes with sheds right up against the house. Think they're all like that?
You had mentioned that you have a generator in the shed,
I do.
and you have a line that runs from the house out to the shed?
No, I don't. I have a heavy cord that I stretch from the generator to the plug at the house, and it backfeeds my home during a power outage.
Well, do you lay that out on the ground, or?
And when the situation arises, I haven't had to yet, but that's what the purpose is.
Yeah,
It's
but
an outdoor wire.
It isn't just laying there every day.
Oh, no, it's coiled up inside the shed.
So if you had an outage, you run the line out, hook it up, and start the generator, right? It's a gas-operated generator?
Mm-hmm. Yes, it is, gasoline. Mhm.
Gasoline, yeah. Thank you.
If maybe you've never had the situation, but we don't have it as often as we used to, but when it seems like when there's a power outage, the generator thieves show up. And they show up in the middle of the night, and all they do is listen for the generator, right? And you're in bed, and they stop, and next morning, your generator's not there anymore. So leaving it inside the shed locked up,
That's a good idea, yeah. And plus, the fumes escaping from the generator.
well, there, and I got windows in the shed that they're open, so I'm not in their shed, so it works out.
Thank you.
Was this a licensed contractor that put in this pad?
No. It's not a pad. It's rock. He only dug down about like this, and then we just put some timbers in, womanized 2x8s.
But he wasn't licensed.
Pardon me?
He's not a licensed contractor.
No, he's a landscaper.
I just want to add a point of clarification. The building department issued their red tag on August 12th. That question came up, so August 12th was the red tag.
Of this year.
Yes.
Any additional questions for the petitioner from the board? Thank you, sir. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
At this time, the public portion is now open. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of or have questions about this petition, please come forward or raise your hand on Zoom. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to, please come forward or raise your hand on Zoom, please.
Good afternoon. I'm Patrick D. Shelton II, 50550 Little John Lane, Granger, Indiana, 46530. I'm the neighbor on the other side of the shed, and I don't approve of where it's at. I don't want it on the property line. I don't like the way it looks next to my house. I don't like looking through the backyard seeing it. I don't like the way it looks when I drive past it every morning on the way to work. I work with Mr. Smith, so it's kind of unfortunate that we're in this situation. I understand he's older and he has the health issues, but I work with him on a daily basis, and I know it might not be as easy for him to get around as it is for me, but I know he's capable of getting around, and I don't think it's a nice shed. It just doesn't look right where it's at, in my opinion. And I think most people that drive by it would agree. I've had people that come to my house that tell me that they don't really understand why it's where it's at. I just wish he would have put it in a different location, either closer to his house or somewhere in the backyard. And it is a beautiful shed. It just doesn't fit the neighborhood or fit. I think it takes down on my property value. I just think it doesn't look right. It looks kind of awkward. That's my personal opinion and my unprofessional opinion, I guess. But I just wanted to voice my feelings and let you all know that I'm not on board with where the shed is located.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate your time.
Yep. And I wasn't coerced into coming and making a statement.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Dawn Orvis. I live at 10893 Cougar Drive, which is Lot 27, which is in the Sherwood Forest subdivision and located 2 doors down, catty corner from Mike and Denise Smith's property at 50510 Little John Lane, Lot 25. I am also the Sherwood Forest HOA president. As the Sherwood Forest HOA president, ever since the Smiths installed their shed, I have received several phone calls, emails, and messages from disgruntled neighbors regarding its placement. Complaints include, but are not limited to, the shed's location encroaching on their next-door neighbor's side property line, being a major eyesore to the neighborhood, being too close to their front yard and public view, and concerns about its location potentially lowering neighboring property resale values. As you can see from the pictures provided in enclosure number 1, the shed is located directly on their front side property line, which is not only an encroachment upon lot number 24 at 50550 Little John Lane, owned by Patrick and Kristen Shelton, but it's also a violation of number 4 building location of the protective restrictions, covenants, limitations, and easements for Sherwood Forest, which is public record, and I'm including a copy for your files today as enclosure number 2. Sherwood Forest is sandwiched in between the much larger Partridge Woods and Park Forest subdivisions. Since most of the 3 subdivisions' lot owners were unable to attend today's hearing, enclosure number 3 is the result of an online poll designed on Google Forms and presented to our private joint neighborhood Facebook group, asking neighbors whether they support or oppose this petition. Neighbors were provided a copy of the public hearing notice that I am holding here, and then were asked to provide their name, street address, and which subdivision they live in order to verify that the results were from actual neighbors in and around Sherwood Forest. Out of the 82 neighbors responding to the poll, 81 of respondents opposed this petition. Only 1 neighbor supported the petition but listed his or her name as anonymous. As the Smith's neighbor who has to see that shed every day as I'm going to and from work and when I'm outside working in my yard, I strongly oppose this petition as well. I agree with all of my neighbors that the Smith shed in its current location is a major eyesore to the neighborhood. If I were the Sheltons and I had to deal with that shed encroaching upon my front side property line, obstructing my view of the corner of the neighborhood, and seeing it every time I looked or went outside for whatever reason, I would be absolutely livid, to be honest. And my guess is that if the tables were turned and the Sheltons did this to the Smiths, Mike and Denise would be livid as well. The 8-foot side yard setback protects all of us lot owners from encroachment upon our properties by next-door neighbors' buildings, which is exactly what is happening here by the Smiths to the Sheltons. Reason number 3 of the variance application states that the current location of the shed is needed for health reasons. I am asking this board to please consider the following. Mike and Denise Smith live in a large and beautiful 2-story house with 4 bedrooms, is over 1,800 square feet in size, and includes a basement, which means there is, at minimum, 2 full flights of stairs inside that house. They live on .68 acres of pristinely manicured and well-maintained property, which Mike and Denise take care of themselves with the help of their adult son. They do not hire outside help to take care of their lawn, snow removal, seasonal decor, etc. They manage it all themselves. They also have an 18-foot above-ground swimming pool, which they walk to their backyard and climb a ladder to get in and out of each time they use it. Now, if they're able to live in a large 2-story house with 2 flights of stairs, maintain .68 acres of their own landscaping, lawn care, and snow removal, and walk to their backyard to climb in and out of an above-ground pool using a ladder, they can just as easily walk to their backyard and utilize their shed, which doesn't require stairs nor a ladder. As you can see on the enclosed Sherwood Forest Section 3 plat map, which is public record and listed as enclosure number 4, the Smiths in Lot 25 have plenty of space in their backyard to relocate their shed that, 1, won't violate county and HOA restrictions, 2, won't encroach on any of their neighbors' property lines, 3, won't be an eyesore to the neighborhood, 4, won't be so close to their front yard in public view, and 5, won't potentially threaten property resale values. The Smiths just need to move their shed to their backyard away from their neighbors' property lines and within setback requirements set by the county. It's that simple. As their neighbor of 9 years, I've seen their backyard. They have plenty of space as shown in enclosure number 5.
Ma'am, you've unfortunately reached your time limit, but thank you for your information.
Thank you.
I do have a couple of questions for you, though. I believe, and Randy, you can correct me if I'm wrong, while I appreciate the online poll you did, if those people are not here in person, what they say doesn't count to this board, unfortunately. They have to
Okay.
be here in person to state what they wish to oppose or be a proponent to.
Okay.
So.
In this case, they did provide their names and their addresses.
Oh, so I'm wrong?
Yeah,
Okay,
this
cool.
petition, a lot of times the ones that you get are just people
Yeah,
signing
just
things
signing
and
their
you don't
name.
know where they are. This particular one has enough characteristics of identification of the person that you should be able
They
to
are
consider this
considered
one.
it. Okay. In your enclosure 2 that you provided is your subdivision's covenants, correct?
It's a section out of our covenants,
Right.
correct?
Okay, so, and it does say should not be, basically it's mimicking most of what the county's
That is
asking for as
correct.
well, too. To your knowledge, how many other buildings or outbuildings are in violation of this in the subdivision?
I don't know that. To give you an exact number, I do not know.
How many would you guess?
There are probably a few.
What do you
But
do
none of
to-
them have been cited for HOA violations, and neither has the Smiths, just for the record. We have not, as an HOA board, cited them for a violation for this,
Why?
because we knew they got red tagged by you.
No, why even
By the
cite the other
county.
people that aren't in accordance with your covenants?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
Why have you not cited the other people that are not in accordance with your covenants?
Okay, so when the HOA board was active for many years, and then it dissolved for several years. And I moved in 2012, and it was either 2012 or 13, it was shortly after we moved in, a group of neighbors wanted to try to revive the board. I was not involved with that at any time, at that time. And so the HOA board started to hold meetings again and become active. And then they had an election, and they had a previous president. And I was noticing during the last president's time, and it's a 2-year position, that decisions were being made by the board that were not, I think, were not smart, to put it to, I don't know how to explain that. So I decided to run. And when I ran for president, I became president the end of last year. And the first thing I did as the new president was tell the board we need to revise, and this was my campaign to the neighborhood, was we needed to revise our covenants and bylaws because the previous boards were not abiding by completely enforcing across the board with neighbors. There were violations that I could easily see. One was the pool. They're not the only ones with an above-ground pool, and above-ground pools are not allowed in our neighborhood. So I told our board, when I became president, we are revising our covenants, which have not been voted on yet, so we have to stick with our current covenants. And 2, we need to suspend enforcement of our current bylaws, our current covenants, because in the past, up until my tenure, they were not being followed evenly throughout the neighborhood. So I told the board that we need to suspend enforcement from everything until we can do the revisions, get it voted on by the neighborhood. But before we even do that, we are at the process right now of, we're seeking the advice of a lawyer to sit down to make sure that what we want to present to Sherwood Forest HOA collectively is legal and looks appropriate for our neighborhood. We want to do it right. And then we are also putting forth, up until now, we didn't have an enforcement policy in place. And that was my question to the previous president. Do we even have an HOA enforcement policy? And they didn't. And that was the number one reason why I said, no, we need to suspend enforcement. So we are creating an enforcement policy to present to the neighborhood when we are ready to vote on the new covenants. And we're going to take what we have put together for an enforcement policy to the lawyer as well, to make sure that it too is legal and looks balanced in relation to what our covenants will be with the revisions before we present it to the neighborhood for a vote. And we need 75% approval by the entire Sherwood Forest HOA. So we are in a time period right now of suspension of any enforcement of our HOA policies right now, because I'm trying to clean it all up and get it organized and get it done properly.
Okay, understood.
I wanted to ask, thank you for this brochure. The gentleman that spoke previously, is that Mr. Shelton that lives next door?
Yes.
It was, yes.
Okay. I noticed in the picture, is there a fence attached to the shed that runs around, a privacy fence?
There is a shed, or where the shed is, there is a privacy fence that runs behind, that would be running east-west, that would run behind the shed to the back edge between the properties.
And then is there a fence that runs along, that would be the west side of the property, I think?
That's the north side.
That would be the east side heading north,
Yeah,
behind the
north.
Smith's house, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition to this petition?
My name is Michael Byron. I am a neighbor at 10790 Pinecone Court, and I'm Partridge Woods. And I'm opposed to what is being requested for the variance. I think it establishes a bad precedent that could spill over into my neighborhood, and I would prefer to keep abidance to the current county regulation. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate your input. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition to?
I'm Lisa Frazetta Manning, and I live at 50631 Elk Trail, Granger, in Partridge Woods, just around the corner from the previous gentleman. And I, too, oppose The shed, the first time I walked past it, because I walked through the neighborhood and we are connected, I'm just around the corner from that, and I thought, oh, it's probably gonna be moved. And I'm sad that we're having to be here today for this. Appreciate your service, but I'm sorry, it needs to go into the backyard. Are there other violators in Sherwood? Perhaps, I don't know, but I do not see a shed in Sherwood, Partridge Woods, or Park Forest that sits between houses like that anywhere. It is not how our neighborhoods are, so I oppose. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate your time. If there's anyone else who would like to speak in opposition, you can probably just make a line up there. Sorry, I should have said that earlier.
Hello, my name is Aaron Johnson. I live at 50541 King Richards Way in Granger, also part of the Sherwood Forest. I definitely oppose this. Mainly, I haven't seen any other things that violate. There possibly could be, but just walking around the neighborhood. There's a lot of us that are out in the neighborhood walking around daily, but I haven't seen anything else that sits outside like this. The main reason I would oppose it, it just, for one, seems very intrusive into the neighbor's yard, but when we first moved out here a few years ago, I unfortunately witnessed a house fire while we were looking at another house, like when we were looking to purchase to move into the area. It was the neighbor's garage that had caught on fire, and the entire structure was a complete loss. Fortunately, the neighbor that was closest to him, they only had some side damage to their home, but had there been a shed, especially fueled with a gasoline generator, which I'm sure there's gas stored there, that whole structure could have been lost as well in that case. So that's why I definitely oppose it. If I had a neighbor that wanted to build something in between our two homes, I would definitely oppose it, just for the sake of safety, of anything happening. Like I said, it's very unfortunate that we witnessed that fire, but that was the first thing that popped into my head when I saw this, is that instead of one home being lost, it could be two, so.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate your input. Anyone else wish to speak in opposition to? We do have two letters. It appears they may be duplicates of the petition that was signed on the Google Docs. The first one was by Derek Opperman at 50671 Little John Lane, Granger, Indiana 46530. Writing a response that he strongly opposes the request because it's far too close and right on top of the property line, direct line side of the road, and does not look appropriate to the neighborhood. We also have one signed by Kenneth and Linda Biggins, which I believe Mrs. Biggins was just up, at 50960 Sherwood Drive, Granger, Indiana. Also, same thing. It's out of character. Believe value of neighboring properties and neighborhood cohesion is being jeopardized if we grant this variance. With that, the public portion is now closed. I can't think of anything that came up that Mr. Smith would need to come back up and answer for. Anything that you guys want readdressed by Mr. Smith?
Let's see, I don't.
Mr. Smith, would you come back up to the podium real quick, just for a couple of different questions that I actually have? The new section of that privacy fence, was that?
Mr. Bellman, he also has the opportunity to address
To
any
rebut,
of the
yes.
comments
Mhm.
that he might want to.
Yep, you'll
talk
have the
about.
opportunity. I have a question for you real quick, but then you have the ability to rebut anything that anyone said while during the public portion.
Well, I had something, and I don't remember what it was now, but go ahead, ask your question.
Did you put up the new section of fencing, or is that done by your neighbor? That's there by the shed?
I put that up, it just extended the fence that I already had there, just to finish off from the end of where my fence stopped before to the shed, just to, so it looked like it was complete.
Complete and all the way.
That's all I
Okay.
really did that.
Okay. Is there anything you would like to add to your petition after hearing the people that come up and spoken in addition to the petition?
I don't think so. Probably not gonna be appropriate for what I might have to say anyway, so I probably just better not say anything.
Mr. Holly has a question for you.
Go ahead.
I thought I heard somebody mention that you have an above-ground pool,
I do,
and there are other above-ground pools.
yes.
And that's in violation of the previous covenants and restrictions.
Yes,
Okay, thanks. That's all.
okay.
Thank you, Mr.
I don't
Smith.
have anything else, thank you.
All right. everything is over, I would be open to additional discussion on this topic, or I will entertain a motion.
How close can you set it to a house without getting into the fire?
5 foot, more than 5 feet away.
All it is, 5 feet?
Or they'd have to be constructed as a firewall, and then it could be right up against it, correct? If it was to be flipped around.
I don't think that's true. There's still a distance that it has to be away.
Right, but it's within a foot probably. But it still has to be fire rated anything less than 5.
So really, we can't do anything about them having it in the front yard. They can set it wherever they want, as long as it's 8 foot away from the property line.
It has to still meet the front setback of the
Yeah.
ordinance, which would be probably where the garage is, so correct, yes. But yeah, there's nothing in our ordinances that says just has to meet the setbacks from front and side, basically.
Right.
Could staff just provide a recap of, from staff's perspective, looking at the state code criteria? This is Abby Wiles, Area Plan Commission staff. So really, when we're considering these requests, we've heard a lot about the covenants, and we go back to the zoning ordinance. The request at hand is 0 feet where 8 feet is required. And looking at the state code criteria, like Ryan laid out previously in the meeting, will it be injurious to the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare? You have a petition signed by 80 people saying that it will. Will the use and value of the area adjacent be affected in a substantially adverse manner? You have testimony from the neighbor adjacent saying that he feels that it will be that it will adversely impact his property. And then, in my opinion, most pertinent to the conversation today is strict application to the terms of the chapter will result in a practical difficulty in the use of the property. You've seen he has ample space to relocate the shed in such a way that meets the zoning ordinance requirements.
So we're not here to solve the problem, we're here to address the issue. Does that make sense? I'll entertain a motion.
Bob Hawley, I'll make a motion that we deny the request as requested for the property located at 50510 Little John Lane in Granger, Indiana.
I'll second that.
We have a motion by Mr. Holly and a second by Mr. Tavernier to deny the petition as requested. Can we call for the vote, please?
Ms. Deutscher?
Yes.
Mr. Hawley?
Yes.
Mr. Moffett?
Yes.
Mr. Ritzman?
Yes.
Mr. Schaefer?
Yes.
Mr. Tavernier?
Yes.
Mr. Veldman?
Yes. Based upon the testimony presented here today, the Area Board of Zoning Appeals, after careful consideration, denies the variances and will issue written finding of the facts. Thank you for all your time today, people. Appreciate it. Okay, and we're reading of petition number 2, please.
Can I say one more thing? I have a question.
You'd have to wait till after the meeting, sir. I apologize.
There's no comments further on that petition. It's done. And there's no comments from the gallery. I'm sorry.
I'll make a phone call.
Number 2, location 61550 Poppy Road, owner Candy LaRue, requested requested action, variance 1 from section 154.070 sub C, 1A, 1 to allow 2,216 square feet of detached accessory buildings where a minimum of 1,473 square feet is permitted on a lot less than 1 acre in size. Zoning R, Single Family District, County.
Okay, Ryan Fellows, Area Plan Commission staff again. As you see here, the property of this size is about 2/3 of an acre. Great, thank you. Yeah, I'll just add a couple more. As you can see, this entire area looks very agricultural, but it is actually zoned R single-family district. And as you can see, there is just very close to this property is a very large agriculturally used barn. But for this property, it is about 2/3 of an acre. If it were a full acre, it would be entitled to have accessory structures at 1.5 times the square footage of the ground floor of the primary unit. Because it does not meet that 1 acre threshold, it has to be only 1 times that size. So it doesn't make that. But it is relatively close. And as described, this is a very rural setting. And the character of the area does have very large accessory buildings in the area. And it will ultimately be up to you guys to decide, but it does appear like it would match the character of the area. So therefore, staff is in support of this variance. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for staff? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Fellows. Is the petitioner here and able to add anything to their petition?
Petition's here. I'm her husband. I'm not Candy.
My name is Gary Damp. I live at 61500 Poppy Road. I'm Candy's husband. We're just asking for the variance so that we can build the pole barn big enough to be able to pull my bus into and my truck into, because the garage that was there is not tall enough, for one thing, to pull a bus in, for one. And my 4x4 truck just barely squeaks under the door. So I wanted to build this pole barn, 30 by 40, long enough to house the bus and tall enough for it to get underneath and my truck to get in easily and still be able to get around them. That's all I have to.
This bus that you, Bob Hawley here, this bus that you have, is that a school bus?
It's a minibus with a 25-foot rack on top to haul our teepee poles. We're part of a Native American tribe, and we set up our teepee at Rochester and other places that rendezvous that we go to.
Oh, how nice, thank you. Yeah, good.
I just had a question about, in our packet, we received this hand-drawn graph paper. It appears, I'm not sure if you're familiar with what this is.
Yeah,
It appears there's 3 workstations with printers and bookshelves and a gazebo, or not a gazebo, but a breezeway to allow traffic into a business, it appears. Is there business going on at this house?
there is a business at the house. That's the smaller portion of that paper, the 10 by 20 or whatever it is, on the west side of that. I'm trying to find it here.
Does it have any type of retail environment to it,
Retail environment.
such as people coming and going from it and
Yes,
selling through it?
She does taxes in that little office area.
Okay.
She does taxes, so this is basically probably, what, March, April, May, something like that is her,
Yeah, February to May,
yeah. Okay.
that she does taxes.
Okay, that's interesting.
Sir, is the proposed pole barn related at all to the
No.
home occupation?
The pole barn is just for my bus and my truck to be able to access easily. Instead of my bus sitting outside all winter and collecting snow and everything else and sun, and I just wanted the pole barn so I store my teepee poles on top of the bus on the rack so I don't have to take them off and on, and I'm getting old. So out of the weather for my teepee poles, it's easy to move in and out. That was the purpose of the pole building, is just ease of access.
When do you hope to start building this building?
As soon as I can get the permit.
So, where it says existing remodeled shop or exterior
Yes.
remodel shop, you're attaching this 30 by 40 to that?
Correct. Let's see, the east wall of the remodeled shop, part of that will be the pole barn, or,
That's what this is.
that's what that picture there is, yes. The new carport pole barn is what I'm here for the variance for, to attach that little square inside the new existing pole barn is coming off, and I can pull my bus and my truck in and still have room to work around them. And
Will the new structure have doors on both sides, both north and south?
it'll have 2 doors on the south side and 1 on the north side, so I could pull through
So you're gonna be able to pull
if have to.
Okay. Okay. Any other questions from the board for the petitioner?
How big is this bus?
It's a minibus, but my rack on top is 25
Right,
foot.
but how long, I mean, like, I drive a Chevy 3500 crew cab, so my truck doesn't fit in a regular garage either,
Correct,
right?
and I have a truck like that also, and it doesn't fit in the regular garage, which is what the existing, or the remodel shop was just a regular garage, and the door height was only 7 foot, so I couldn't get my truck into that garage anyway. So I wanted to make that into a workshop, which they gave me permit to do that. And then when I tried to get the pole barn, my pole barn and existing buildings are too big for, I need a variance. And I also need the variance for the 30 foot on the backside, because they said that I need to be 40 foot away from the backside.
Right, rear setback, correct.
Correct. So,
So you need a size and a, setback variance.
correct.
Gotcha. Okay.
And I think we petitioned that and sent everything in for that, but I only see the size variance on this agenda.
Yeah, it actually turned out upon further review that ultimately the rear setback for an accessory structure is only 8 feet. So we're going to have to
Learn that.
work that out with you, and so that was my mistake.
All right.
Okay.
Any other questions for the petitioner? Thank you, sir. Appreciate your time. The public portion is now open. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of or have questions about this petition, please come forward and raise your hand. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to, please come forward and raise your hand. Seeing none, the public portion is now closed. I will, is there any additional comments or questions from the board? I will entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve, petition number 2.
Second? Bob Hawley, seconds.
We have a motion by Mr. Tavernier and a second by Mr. Holly to approve the petition as requested. Can you call for the vote, please?
Ms. Deutscher?
Yes.
Mr. Holly?
Yes.
Mr. Moffett?
Yes.
Mr. Ritzma?
Yes.
Mr. Schaefer?
Yes.
Mr. Tavernier?
Yes.
Mr. Veldman?
No. Based on the testimony presented here today, the Area Board of Zoning Appeals, after careful consideration, finds the variance granted and will issue written findings of the facts. We'll move on to petition number 3, please.
Location 57821 Snowberry Road. Owners Larry and Heidi Marie Dolph. Requested action, variance, 1, from Section 154.515 sub C to allow a side setback of 10 feet where a minimum of 30 feet is required for a ground-mounted solar energy system, zoning A, agricultural district, county.
Okay, Ryan Fellows again. As you can see, this is a single-family home surrounded by tilled farmland in each direction, a good distance. This is about a 1 acre approximately in size. We've seen a few of these over the last several months of people putting in solar panels on an agriculturally zoned lot where the lot is kind of residential in size, and the neighboring lots were also residential in size, not used for tilled land. This is a slightly different situation because this is abutting tilled land. The rationale behind the 30-foot setback is based on the idea that when the farmer tills their property, there's going to be a certain amount of dust, dirt, stones, spray, fertilizer, manure that might get sprayed to, that might go beyond that line. And the 30-foot setback is so that whatever gets past that initial, when the farmer is tilling their property, if it gets a stone cast or some dirt or other material, that has a space to kind of dissipate and not harm any structures or any investment that a neighboring property owner would install. But in this case, the property owner is aware of that situation. They put in their application that they are aware that there may be some stray stones or dirt or other material that might be cast from farmer tilling their property. And they are basically providing informed consent that they may end up with a damaged solar equipment. And for that reason, staff is supportive of this variance. As you know, we're relatively early days or months of the solar ordinance, and so we're still investigating, fleshing out kind of the boundaries of what the appropriate setbacks should be for solar panels, particularly in agricultural district, and if there should be special setbacks or not. So your review is really welcomed here and appreciated, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
You know, you bring up, Bob Hawley, you bring up a good point about the different things that a farmer faces. You would think that they would, in the presentation of the product, because of the location in the farm fields, that they would have thought about some sort of a cover I mean, I know you can't cover it up all day, but if they're gonna be working the fields, that they could cover it up. I would be really concerned about damage.
Nobody's gonna do that.
Yeah, nobody will.
I'm not gonna take the time to do that.
Is it that big?
Well, it's just one extra step that you gotta take.
Yeah. It's like
Yeah.
it's like covering your air conditioner in the winter.
Yeah.
You should, but no one does.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Actually, my neighbor does. It's kinda
Just
weird.
now with a piece. Now with a piece. Hey.
You covered.
We're not
yours,
off
you
track
and
at
you.
all.
No, sorry. Squirrel.
I'm sorry.
No, that was me. Yeah, so, yeah, it means it's quite a large structure across ways, you're right. I mean, that's a lot to have to try and cover up, but you're right, so, okay. Any additional questions for the staff? All right. Is the petitioner here, would like to add anything to their petition, or are they on Zoom?
We are here. Larry is the homeowner.
Sure, if you make your way up to the podium and state your name and address, please, sir.
I think you already have these, but he gave me extras to pass out to you all. Oh, okay,
Yep,
great.
I think we're
You
good.
already have them? All right.
Thank you,
Yes,
Doug.
my name is Ryan Lonaker. I am a representative for Wellspring Solar. We are the installing company, and I helped design and figure out the placement for the panels in the solar array for the owner, Larry Dolph, who is here as well. My address at Wellspring Solar is 1085 North 850 West, Shipshewana, Indiana. And I would like to address the board and provide some additional information for the variance and request of approving it. We do agree at Wellspring that the approval of this variance will not be injurious to the public health, safety, or morals, general welfare, or the use and value of the area adjacent to the property. That the farmer next to Larry with the ground mount, it shouldn't affect his farming at all to be at 10 feet close to the property line versus 30 feet. And Larry does realize, the homeowner does realize that a stone or debris could be tilled up and blown over or thrown at the solar arrays. He's not really worried at that. The solar panels, the 380 watt Helene panels are rated for 1-inch hail at 50 miles an hour. So if a stone does kick up and damages it, it would be a pretty big stone, and that farm equipment's throwing it pretty hard. And at that point, it would fall under homeowner's insurance. The reason why we are requesting the placement, if you look at the first picture, right, the original design and placement is close to that 10-foot setback of the south property line. Here's a really good picture here. So it's pretty much even with the large tree is where we would like to put the array. At that space, the panels are not going to be facing a lot of shading from the neighboring, from the trees on the west side. And also you can see the fenced area, that's a garden area that Mr. Dolph has fenced off for his dog to be able to go freely out of the house and come back in, and it's also a garden area. Also the system is specifically designed for the panels being bifacial panels. If you're looking at the bottom picture, the panels, the back side of the panels will pick up sunlight, indirect sunlight, just like the front side of the panels. So the system's specifically designed for that backside production. I designed a 22-panel system for Mr. Dolph. And when you add that 10 to 15% extra backside production, you're looking at the second page, that would give him 102% energy offset. So it would cover his electric bill completely, and Mr. Dolph would only pay his $15 a month to AEP for his meter, virtually producing all his own electricity at this point and securing that his electrical bills would be flatlined. He's no longer worried about rising costs from AEP. Mr. Dolph is retired with a fixed income and is worried about that in the future. So with this current placement closer to the property line, he would get that backside production. It would not incur into his garden and fenced area. Mr. Dolph has already moved some things and made adjustments to his property. He did cut down a tree, he did move a mulberry bush, all in preparation for the panels to be placed in this area and not in his garden. If we moved back to that 30-foot setback, it would be pushing into his garden and for the fenced area for his dog. It would affect the use of his property. It would also affect the panels. The panels would receive more shading from the trees to the west as well. And we have also looked at placing the panels on Mr. Dolph's roof. His roof, he does have standing seam metal. We do have brackets that are no penetrations, but with the layout of his roof, I would have to use 4 separate roof faces to fit the panels on there. And we would lose the bifacial effect of the panels. With the panels only a few inches off the roof, he's going to get 0.5% or 1% extra production on the backside of that panel, as opposed to the 10 to 15% of a ground mount. I wouldn't be able to face all the panels south. I would have to face a section of the panels to the west, and I would have to increase the panel count. We would be working off a lift for that roof because we couldn't stand on the standing seam and work on the panels, so that would add to the cost of the project. The cost of the project would go up by $5,000, and I would have to add panel count to it. Overall, he would lose production. If you're looking at that second page, his financial outlook would go from paying $23,000 to pay $28,000, and from the initial design to save $14,406 over 25 years to saving $5,800. That's the loss of production of moving the panels to the roof. So for those reasons, we're asking for the variance of 10 feet so that he has proper placement for sun exposure for the panels and to be able to pick up that backside production. Mr. Dolph is retired. He does live with his wife Heidi, and also takes his niece Leandra also lives with them, and they care for her. So with this project, he's looking to ensure his financial savings and security for his electric bill over time.
We received this, you constructed these pictorials, I assume, because you're showing the location of the panels
Those
themselves?
panels are another ground mount. This has not been installed.
Right, no, I get it. No, I
Yes.
know it's not installed.
But
For reference point, though, I don't know, do we have this picture up there anywhere that you could bring it up? No?
No.
Why couldn't the panels be slid over and more towards the house?
Slid over more towards the house
So
up
if
to
you go
the,
straight back, you get into his garden and everything like that, slide them over and slide them back.
I believe we get very close to his house, like we're gonna be within 2 or 3 feet from his house. Most likely, we're gonna end up about 17 feet from the property line. We were asked for the 10-foot variance, but most likely, if we go to 30 feet, yeah, we could slide them over closer to the house. And maybe within 5 feet there. It's just that much closer to the house of walkway.
Do what now?
I say, that ain't what you're asking. You're asking to slide the system over, not closer to the house.
Well, it'll be
Slide
closer,
it
to- yeah.
in
sliding
front of the
back-
house.
Back closer to the house.
We
correct.
could move it in that direction in front of the house. I think we'd be within 4 or 5 feet of the house at that point.
Would you lose the backside production, or would you gain because of the reflection off the house then?
We probably wouldn't lose a lot of backside production. We may lose some, but not significantly, because that's on the north side. The indirect sunlight's just, bouncing off the house, bounces off the ground.
Right.
Well, but now you're gonna mess with the aesthetics of the front of the house.
Somewhat. And how wide, I mean, the rack that you have in the, here, doesn't give an overall, it looks like it's maybe 30, 40 feet all the way across?
So it is 11 panels that are 3.5 feet wide. So,
You're making me do math.
yeah, so 33 and another about 38 feet.
Okay. So it's
38
about
feet
40, and
wide.
it's gonna stand how tall?
It's gonna go, the panels start at 2 feet and they'll go up to about 14 feet because of double stacked.
Traditional angle
A
with
40-degree angle, yeah. So the width of the array is only about 6 feet when you're going from front edge of the 2 feet up to the 14 feet. It's about 6.5 feet that way on the width.
Some of this is new to us, I mean, this is a new procedure. And I thank you for your input. You mentioned something, just for an education.
Mm-hmm.
Are they on American Electric Power System,
Yes, it's AEP.
AEP?
Mm-hmm.
And you pay, what, did you say $15 for the meter?
$15 for the meter fee. AEP will allow you to exchange electricity at a 1-to-1 rate. Net metering is guaranteed if you install solar by June 30th of this year. After June 30th, you install solar on July 4th or July 1st, you're no longer guaranteed that 1-to-1 net metering exchange with electricity, where you can send them electricity, get the same electricity back from them. That's where the guaranteed savings are right now. But that meter fee, that monthly fee, it will always be there, unless you're in Michigan. AEP in Michigan lets you take your credits and roll them into your meter fee.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
This is Christine Deutscher. I have a question. So, is the placement of the panels, is that at your recommendation? Or did the homeowner request them to be where you placed them? Because obviously we said you could move them east and a little bit closer to the home, but I just wondered who decided on that placement?
We mutually decided on the placement. We walked out in the yard and looked at the property and said this would be the best spot for the panels for the sun exposure. And then we talked about doing some work. He cut down a tree. He took out a huge mulberry bush that was in that area to be able to settle on the placement of the panels.
Thank you.
Any other questions for the petitioner from the board? All right. Thank you, sir. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
The public portion is now open. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of or have questions about this petition? Yes, sir. Come on up.
I'm the homeowner, and
We need your name and address, please, for the record.
Larry Dolph, 57821 Snowberry Road.
Thank you.
And the one thing that was brought up about rocks and stones and stuff like that, in the area I live in, that ground is all muck ground. And so there is hardly any possibility of a stone ever hitting them. Maybe some corn cobs or something like that, but I don't think that that is a real problem. And I also have investigated it. There is a solar panel on Jackson Road in the same county here, and it's inside the cornfield. And the farmers put that there themselves to generate electricity for some of their, I believe it's irrigation. I'm not familiar with all of it, but I think that they feel it's safe enough to have there. And as well, my house, the owner of the farm that is there, I bought that from him over 40 years ago. So I don't think he has any problem like that for it or anything like that. You know, we have a mutual thing going on, and I guess that's pretty much what I'm just looking at. I grew up as a farmer, and I've lived on Snowberry Road, or Tulip Road, all my life when I was growing up, and I wanted to stay in the area, so I moved over to Snowberry Road. And I can't farm anymore because I grew up on a farm, and we had about 100 acres or more, and there were 7 kids, and we were a family farm. So the family farm had to be sold when my dad passed away, and I was thinking to myself about this solar thing that, you know, I can't farm anymore, but I could still do something that would make a little production out of the area I'm in. And so that, you know, that's just a little thought that I have, that it'd be nice to not have, you know, not be part of having more destruction, the coal that is used up for the energy, and to be able to make it a little bit more environmentally safe. And if you think about all the things that are going on in our area, I don't see what the problem would be because I go back to where there was not iron tech and iron coat and a whole energy area going on, and that was all zoned agricultural. And it just seems like those people could come in and buy the land and change it to what they want it to be. And I'm just a little guy and would like to just continue to eke out my existence. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. 2 comments. St. Joe County is muck or clay, so you're correct there. And I guess technically it would be harvesting solar rays.
That's my thought.
I never thought of it that way.
Never thought of that one?
No. It's interesting. Okay. Anyone else wish to speak in favor of or have questions about this petition?
Productivity.
Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to? Seeing none, the public portion is now closed. Is there any additional comments, questions, or I'll entertain a motion?
I make a motion that we accept as written. Cindy Schaefer.
Second that motion.
We have a motion by Mr. Schaefer and a second by Mr. Holly to approve the variance as requested. Could you call for the vote, please?
Ms. Deutscher?
Yes.
Mr. Holly?
Yes.
Mr. Moffett?
Yes.
Mr. Ritzma?
Yes.
Mr. Schaefer?
Yes.
Mr. Tavernier?
Yes.
Mr. Veldman?
No. Based on the testimony presented here today, the Area Board of Zoning Appeals, after careful consideration, finds the variance granted and will issue it in finding the facts. Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate your time. Can we have the reading of petition number 4, please?
Location 12646 Heather Park Drive. Owner WTMC Real Estate LLC. Requested actions, special use under section 154.212 sub L1 to allow outdoor storage in excess of 50% of the project area. Variance 1 from section 154.212 sub B to allow a front setback of 15 feet where a minimum of 50 feet is required for storage of vehicles. Zoning I Industrial District County.
So you guys are, this is a variance and a special use. So we need to do, we could do 2 motions potentially, correct?
I think you need to do 2 motions.
Yeah, that's how I would do it. A vote on your recommendation on the special use.
So we have 2 separate votes on this considering it, just making everyone aware of that.
Yeah, so good afternoon, Sean Klein, Area Plan Commission staff. So the petitioner here builds out mobile dog grooming vans on the property north of Heather Park Drive, directly across the street from the parcel, which is highlighted there. And they wish to store vehicles, these dog grooming vans, on that highlighted property. Since this property is not directly abutting the facility where they manufacture these, we have to treat this as a separate project area. And there is a provision in the I Industrial District which states any outdoor storage in excess of 50% of a project area requires a special use. So that's one of the reasons why we're here today. The other would be the variance, because they want to store these vans with a 15-foot setback rather than a 50-foot setback, because outdoor storage is required to meet the minimum front yard, which is 50 feet in the I Industrial District. When we turn to the criteria from the zoning ordinance to consider when judging a special use, the first being that the proposed use will not be injurious to public health, safety, comfort, community moral standards, convenience, or general welfare. We find that in this case, the petition does comply with that provision. Particularly, we feel that it is not a threat to public comfort or general welfare, in that the impact from storing these vehicles will be absorbed by an industrial district and won't extend really outside of that district. Additionally, there is required type 2 screening from the public right-of-way. In this case, there'll be a 4-foot landscape berm and 11 evergreen trees to provide screening at the front along the street. The second criteria is that the proposed use will not injure or adversely affect the use and value of the adjacent area or property values therein. To this end, we find that the storage of these vans in excess of 50% of the lot really doesn't have a greater, more egregious impact than a number of industrial uses that could be permitted, or that are permitted by right on this property, and therefore could take place there without a special use. The third criteria is that the proposed use will be consistent with the character of the district in which it is located and the land uses authorized therein. Once again, this is zoned I industrial, which is a district established to provide for the development of industrial uses, many of which require large amounts of outdoor storage. Fourth, the proposed use is compatible with the recommendations of the St. Joseph County Comprehensive Plan. In this case, we find that it does not conflict with any of the recommendations of the 2002 County Comprehensive Plan. So when it comes to the special use, staff recommends a favorable recommendation to the County Council. Turning now to the front setback variance from 50 feet to 15. 15 feet is actually the setback for off-street parking. And since staff finds that visually and in terms of the auditory impact, this is very analogous to an off-street parking lot, we find that the 15-foot setback is sufficient. We feel that it meets the first criteria, that the approval will not be injurious to public health, safety, morals, and general welfare, because the 15 feet is adequate in terms of public safety being set back from the street. The use and value of the area adjacent to the property, we find, will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner, because once again, this is an industrial district. The vehicles that are stored will be new vehicles in good condition, and in that sense, it's kind of identical to a customer or an employee parking lot that you would regularly find in the industrial district. Furthermore, we find that the strict application of the terms of this chapter would result in practical difficulties in that they would deny this manufacturer the ability to utilize a portion of a lot for storage without any real strong corresponding benefit to the public. And I would be happy to answer any questions.
Is it gonna be paved?
Yes, it is going to be paved.
Any questions for staff? All right. We would welcome petitioner to come up and make any additional comments on their petition. Petitioners on
Sure.
staff. Oh, Mr. Zoom, or on Zoom, Mr.
Yep.
Zoom.
Good afternoon. Sorry, Mike Huber, Avamarch Consultants, 315 West Jefferson Boulevard in South Bend. I think Sean did an excellent job of characterizing our request. Again, our client, Wagon Tails Mobile Grooming Vans, is looking to consolidate. They currently are providing some offsite or some outdoor storage of their vans at their existing manufacturing facilities across the street. This gives them an opportunity to kind of move those and consolidate them into one location, provide some nice screening, and really, I think, overall enhance the look of the park by not having vans stored in various locations and keeping them in one nice consolidated nicely landscaped parking area. So overall, I think, again, it's gonna be a benefit for the neighborhood. As Sean mentioned, this is a pretty less intense use than some industrial use that could potentially go in on this site. And the fact that it's just storing some vehicles. Outdoor storage is a permitted use. It's just, we're going over the 50% threshold, which is requiring that that special use variance. And for the front yard setback, since it's really kind of functioning as a parking lot, that's why we requested the variance to kind of get the same front yard setback as a parking lot would have, be allowed in this case. So happy to answer any questions. Also, the petitioner is also on the Zoom call today as well, in case you have questions specifically for some of their operations as well.
Mr. Huber, as it relates to the site plan, so it's been stipulated already, it will be a paved lot completely, correct?
Correct, that is correct. It'll be a completely paved lot. We'll provide all the adequate necessary required landscaping screening. I did want to mention one more thing. From the exterior, these vans will all be completely finished, right? They're not going to be like chassis with waiting for, I mean, these will be completely finished on the exterior vans. So it'll look like a parking lot with finished vans in it.
Since you're going to be paving the majority of that parcel, do you have plans for drainage and how to address that as well too?
Yeah, so that'll be in the next level of detail for this project. That's part of our continuing project. If we are successful today getting the special use, we would comply fully with the county's drainage standards as well. Correct.
And it appears it's going to be completely fenced all the way around all four sides, or five in this case, I guess. What kind of fencing are you going to be using to shield all that?
I think as we get into the site design, we'll look at the required materials and we'll work with the client to find a material that meets their needs and meets the zoning ordinance. We haven't gotten to that level of detail in the design yet either.
Sean, is there a requirement on what that fence has to be that you're aware of from the zoning?
Yeah, so there is a height restriction within the minimum front yard, being that 50 feet. The maximum height for like a chain link there would be 4 feet. Elsewhere along the property line, they could go up to 8.
But the minimum is chain link. It doesn't have to be anything privacy-wise or wood or vinyl or anything like that?
It does not, but that's always an option. In that case, it would knock it down to 3 feet in the front, but they could have privacy.
But it's not required?
It's not required. No, since it's industrial to industrial, there's not a high level of screening required along the side property or rear.
Okay. Understood. Any questions for the petitioner from the board?
Is there a plan on top of this fence to have any sort of wire or anything to deter people from getting in?
No.
I don't, well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. I mean, I don't think there's any other spots in that area that have fence lots, right?
No.
So, Mr. Huber, it appears by some of the site plans that we've been provided, there's another lot where they currently also store vehicles down Princess Way a little bit. Will that consolidate those lots into
Yeah, that's the
a
intent.
single lot?
The intent is to consolidate outdoor storage on this lot, correct?
Okay. And what's the expectation on maintenance of this lot? Will it be grass where there's no pavement with, everything kept up as well as what their site is across the street? Or is
Correct.
it, or what's it going to be done?
And/or retention basin, right? I mean, I think it'll be landscape retention area, and it'll be maintained to the level of standards of the rest of their facilities, correct?
Okay. Any questions of petitioner from the board?
Sean, just a question regarding, you brought up about the drainage. Does that go, where does that decision come from? Does that come from the health department?
It comes from the county engineer's office, so they'll have to get all their permitting through the commercial plan review process, and that'll get reviewed at that point by the county engineer.
The reason I bring it up is because, they've had septic concerns, water concerns, sewage concerns in that area for a long time, and they brought in a system. And I'm just mentioning it because they may be aware of the fact that they could hook up to that.
Oh, yeah, if that is a possibility. The health department will be reviewing sewage service, so.
Thank you.
So that's one of the benefits, I guess, of this proposal is that we won't have any wastewater requirements. It's a parking lot So we won't be having to deal with any septic or sewer. We will have obviously stormwater, and I'm not the engineer designing this, but we do have some open space for above ground retention, and then I would assume any additional requirements will be met through some form of dry well or underground perf pipe retention as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Huber. No other questions? Thank you, Mr. Huber. Appreciate your time. The public portion is now open. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of or have questions about this petition, please come forward and raise your hand. All right, seeing none. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to this petition, please come forward.
Good afternoon. My name is Randy Nelson. I'm the owner of the Copy Image, which is located at 12626 Heather Park Drive in Granger, Indiana. I am the building that's next to the empty lot that they want to put the parking lot, and also have it too close to the road. I initially had chose this location when I bought my building back in early 2000 because it was definitely the nicest industrial park in Granger, and I still believe it is at this time. However, I believe this parking lot will change that. Majority of the businesses in there are small businesses. Majority of the business owners in there look at their buildings as an additional retirement and feel similar to I do. However, I did not receive the letter because I had been on vacation. So the people I spoke to weren't able to come in opposition. But we felt the same way, that it would lower our property values, and did not want to have that particular parking lot there. I have included a photo and whatnot of the current park, and as you can see in Exhibit 1 of the information that I turned in earlier, I don't know if that can come up on the screen or not. It's a very professional park, and all the buildings are set back, and it looks very nice. And then Exhibit 2 is my office. As you can see, I've spent a lot of money. I maintain it. I have a sprinkler system. I pay for fertilization. I try to keep it looking nice. I have customers coming in and out. I have numerous comments where people will say, hey, you guys got a really nice place back here. Also in Exhibit 3, I have showed pictures of the current lot. So one of my concerns is, if you look at the current lot, it's not being maintained now. So I don't understand why all of a sudden they would maintain the new lot if they're not maintaining the current lot. So I have concerns about that. Also have concerns that, being that this property is kind of on the curve, when you come into that industrial park and you go around that curve, it will be the ugly duckling of the industrial park, and ruin I think the ambiance of that park, because it is a beautiful industrial park. And so I oppose it for those reasons. I feel it is going to affect my property values long-term and lower the ability to generate revenue either through a rental or possibly selling the building later on down the road. And I lack confidence that they're going to maintain the property properly based on the history of their current property. One other thing I wanted to bring up too is the other concern that I have is in the past when I have seen people have outdoor storage, it starts to turn into more than just I'm going to park some new vehicles in here. It has a tendency to turn into, let's put skids out here for now, let's put some other raw materials out here, let's put a dumpster out here. Again, adding to the, I would say, the unattractiveness of the industrial park. So that's all I have to say.
Sir? Thank you.
To that final point, I did, in the staff report, recommend a condition that that 15-foot setback apply only to the storage of operable vehicles. I forgot to relay that this afternoon, but staff recommends approval of the variance only on the condition that storage be operable vehicles, so not any type of outdoor storage.
We supported the request for outdoor storage up to 15 feet because what's being parked there are vehicles, and that's the encroachment that is allowed in the industrial district for parking specifically.
Mm-hmm.
So what we don't want are skids and whatever
Skids,
else.
trash,
Yep,
dumpsters.
you got it.
Exactly.
Excess materials that they don't need, that they don't have room for inside, is what you're saying. Understood. Is that, so that's a condition that we put onto the variance?
To the variance, correct.
Okay. And then that's upon enforcement by the building department, correct? Or your code enforcement?
By zoning.
So you're making your own work, trying to. Okay, anyone else wishing to speak in opposition to this petition?
Hi, my name is Mark Merrill with Merrill Realty. The address is 12743 Heather Park Drive, Suite 102, Granger, Indiana. And I own lots 1, 2, 3, 19, 20, 24, and also the lot on the other side of this gentleman's property that is also adjacent to the property in question, which is number 5. I've taken pictures. I didn't make multiple pictures, but I did take pictures of the lots, and I'd like to submit those that you could look at.
Sure. We will keep those, sir. Those are ours now. Okay.
Lot 1 we are currently developing, and it's the first picture, and I've also included the site plan attached to it. We have conformed with all the variances that were required in that area, as along with lots 2, 3, 19, 20, and 24. All of those pictures there, they show small businesses that are operating. The integrity of the park has been something that we've tried to maintain, and part of that is not overbuilding the lots and maintaining the setbacks. It is a park-like setting with trees and landscaping. The last 3 pictures I think you'll be interested in are of Wagon Tail's present properties. They show the fence issues that they've said that they would address as far as having slats in them for privacy. They were never accomplished because they said they didn't have it in their budget after they built the building. Landscaping, there's no landscaping in the second to last picture. The retention pond, as you can show, is overgrown, algae-filled, non-maintained. On my properties, I either have mowed retention areas or I have fountains. It's been our policy personally from Merrill Realty that has 7 of the properties in that area that if we take a tree down, we replace a tree with another tree. I believe Wagon Tails reaps the benefits of these covenants. Every time a client enters the park and passes these lots, they see nicely manicured landscaped lots with the variances, no variances in that part of the setbacks. And then we come to the Wagon Tails properties and they say, well, you know what, it's nice that we drive in and we see a park-like setting, but we don't need to apply that to us. We want to have our own say because we're basically looking to make money and not make the area look beautiful. Wagon Tails has not found a way to landscape and abide by their setback requirements. They now wish to further overbuild their lots. If you allow this setback to be changed, you will undermine the integrity of every business that's located here by degrading the integrity and value of the park, and it will devalue the property of the park. That's it. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate your time. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition to this petition?
Chris Merrill, Merrill Properties. I'm the developer of the park. My address 20889 Redfield Road. I'm opposed to it. I set up all the rules, setbacks, and everything else to make the nice-looking park. And it's my opinion, you come in there and you're looking into somebody else's parking lot, and as you can see by those pictures there, which I think it'd be nice to put up there on the board so everybody see, the cars that are parked inside the fence that you can see, I don't agree with that. When they asked me about a permit for a fence, if I could allow the fence, I allowed the fence. I told them as long as there's slats in there. And this conversation was to their builder, Ancon. I had that conversation with them, and they said, it's nothing in our budget for this. I said, if that fence goes up, it's got to have slats in it. You're not supposed to see through it. Read the damn covenants. And they did it anyway. And then I asked Ancon again. They says, it's a personal problem. You have to go talk to the owners. It's not in our budget. So I talked to the owners after they moved in and told them that. And they says, no, we don't have the money for that. And that's not an issue to be dealing with now. We should have dealt with it before. It's on there, it was plain as day, and the covenants as I made up. And I don't agree with this, and I'm strongly opposing it.
Hey, Chris,
Anybody else want to say anything about it? I'm glad to hear to talk about it.
Chris, when was that fence erected?
I can't hear you.
Pardon?
You can't hear you. Gotta get.
Oh, when was that fence erected?
When they built their building.
And that was when?
It's been a while. It's been a while. And they asked for permission to build a fence. I said, yes, but you have to have the slats in it. They
Right.
agreed to put the slats in. That was my conversation with Ancon. And it was a manager of Ancon. And then then they didn't do it, I called Ancon again. We're done with it. We're done with it. We don't have any money left over to build this. We're out of here. You have to go see the owner. So I did. And they refused to do it.
And the
So
purpose.
what makes me think that they're going to comply with anything now?
And the purpose of the slats really was to conceal the product.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. You look at the pictures there with all the pictures. Yeah, they might be brand new, but they're still, it's not what I want for my industrial park. Anybody else want to argue about something? I'm here.
We're not here to argue with anybody, but that's okay.
Okay.
Thank you for your time, sir, and
Thank you.
appreciate it. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition to this petition?
Hi there. Pam Nelson. I'm 12626 Heather Park Drive. You guys received the red folder, is that correct?
I received a yellow folder.
Oh, or yellow? Is yours, I'm sorry, ours is red. So one thing I just want to just bring up, and just to look at under Exhibit 3, the picture of the current lot where they are storing their vehicles. So just to see how the fence is falling apart, the grass is overgrown, they're not taking care of it. So our concern is they won't take care of it moving forward, especially putting it right there. So this is at the very beginning of when you go into Heather Park or the industrial park. So this is like right across the street from a restaurant. You don't really notice it because it's right at the beginning where there aren't any other offices, buildings, things like that. But if you look at the other pictures in the beginning under Exhibit 1, you see the different locations and how people are set back from the road and how they do take care of their properties. This industrial park isn't like a traditional industrial park in what I've seen. It's more like a subdivision, and it's a very, very nice. And our concerns are, right, when you come in, you're going to hit that curve where our building's next. First thing you're going to see is this hideous parking lot 15 feet from the road when every other building is set back. And I don't think that should be allowed. We have invested a lot of money in our building, as I'm sure other people have as well. We did talk to some of our neighbors. They were unfortunately, we got the letter, we were on vacation, so we didn't even find out about it until Saturday that we were having this meeting or that this was an issue. Other people didn't get the letter, so they weren't able to come to the meeting. But we did, everybody that we talked with was clearly in opposition of this. So we are very strongly opposed to this, and we hope that you will not pass this. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate your time. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition to the petition? All right, seeing none, the public portion is now closed. Mr. Huber, or I guess if you said the actual petitioner is on the line with you, I think what myself and the other board members may have some questions is, yeah, the current lack of maintenance on the existing lot that they are storing their vehicles on, you know, past results are not always indicative of future efforts, but that's pretty telling to me that they may not maintain this facility very well. What would they have to say about that?
Sure. So I'll let Mr. Wedding address those concerns here in just a second. What I did want to clarify before we address those is we're not necessarily asking for a variance in how close the parking lot can be to the road. The parking lot, if it's not a outdoor storage, is allowed to be 15 feet from the road. That's not a variance for, you know, that we're out of line with other parking lots or what's allowed. And in terms of enforcement of the current covenants, I'm not sure exactly what that status or standard is in terms of, you know, what's required related to fencing materials or some of those kind of things. But I will let Mr. Wedding address some of the current ongoing maintenance issues.
Mike. Steve Wedding, I'm the Chief Financial Officer for Wagon Tails Mobile Conversions, which is a sister company to WTMC Real Estate. Our address at Wagon Tails is 12633 Heather Park Drive, Granger. The property where we're currently storing vehicles is a rental property owned by the owners of Capri Restaurant. We are not happy with the facility. It's inadequate in size, in upkeep, and that is why we are wanting to move to a location closer to our existing buildings where we can put a paved lot in that's striped. It will house brand new Mercedes, Ford, and Ram vans with the screening that's been indicated. We purchased this property from Merrill Realty. And prior to doing the purchase, I met in our conference room with Chris Merrill, who spoke earlier, on July the 1st, and showed him the plans for this. And I have his okay and signature and date of July 1st, 21 next to the exact plans that are submitted here. I closed on this property at Meridian Title with Mark Merrill and indicated that I had sat down with his brother Chris and had received his approval for what we were intending to do, because we wanted to make sure that the developers of the property were comfortable with what we had designed. So that's the additional information that I wanted to provide.
So are you not responsible for the upkeep of the current lot you're renting then?
Not the fencing and the paving. We are with regard to weeds, and we do spray for weeds.
You're not responsible for that screening of the fence as requested?
I believe they're talking about our production facility, and honestly, I cannot speak to that. I became CFO on September 1st of last year, and this building is, I think, at least 8 years old that Chris Merrill is speaking about. So unfortunately, I cannot speak to that. I don't know if it was a commitment. I don't know. I find it interesting that he was speaking to the contractor as opposed to the property owner, but I don't know, to be honest with you, about any slat commitments.
Thank you.
Anything else was brought up that anyone wants addressed by the petitioner?
So is your fence gonna have barbed wire on it like it does now?
We do not have to have barbed wire. So if that's a commitment that you need, we can do without barbed wire.
But it will have slats in it?
I don't
It'll
believe
have
it was
the privacy
intended to. It was, instead, we were going to use landscape screening with the berm and the evergreens.
What kind of fence did you have envisioned for this lot? Was it just going to be chain link, or was it going to be, because you're fencing in the entire parking lot that you're proposing, what kind of fence did you guys have in your minds?
Chain link.
And then you'd be accomplishing the required screening on the front towards the Heather Park Drive street, correct?
Correct. And to accommodate our neighbor at Copy Image, their concerns, we're willing to put berm and screening on that, I guess it would be northeast angle, heading down towards the railroad track.
Okay. Okay. Any other questions of petitioner from the board they want addressed? You act like you have something to ask.
I got questions for them.
I do too, so.
Okay.
Okay, if there's nothing else for petitioner, the public portion is now closed. I was confused by one thing that Mr. Huber said is he doesn't really care about the 15-foot setback, so,
I didn't say I didn't care about the 15-foot setback.
Sorry,
What I was
gotcha.
trying to clarify is that the parking lot is allowed to be within 15 feet. It's the outdoor storage piece that's driving that part of the variance, that we're not building anything any closer than a normal parking lot would be allowed. So we're not encroaching any further than what would be permitted if it were a building with a parking lot.
correct, that's the stipulation I want to know. So since we know they're storing stuff out there, their plan is to store things out there. So if it's just a parking lot that I could drive into to patronize a facility, that's fine. But since they have stipulated it's only going to be for storage, that's requiring the variance, I guess?
Yeah, since it's storage of their inventory, essentially, that is outdoor storage as opposed to parking.
Gotcha.
Specifically for the variance being requested.
Right.
And the point I was trying to make is visually, it would have the same appearance. Since our outdoor storage is basically parking vehicles, it would have the same visual appearance as if it were a normal parking lot with some vehicles parked in it.
And all these businesses have parking lots are within the 15 feet.
Right.
So when they say they're set back more than 15 feet, they're not.
The buildings are, but the parking is not, correct. That's the clarification I'm trying to reach here is because there may permanently be trucks there just being cycled in and out because they're being produced, there's always gonna be something there parked, but it's still just a parking lot. The other clarification I wanna know, so if they chose to only asphalt or create a parking lot at 49.9% of the total lot, they would not need a special exemption and if they, nor a variance, correct?
Yeah, and they met all the relevant setback requirements, but yes, that's correct.
If we knew it was storage, the 50-foot setback, but then they could go all the way back the other area or create something different there. So because they've exceeded the 50% of the total lot, that's the reason that the special exemption kicks in.
Project area.
Project area, yes.
That's the key word.
Project area. All right.
That's how the ordinance reads, Joe.
Understood. So the project area parking lot, if it exceeds 49 or 50%, that requires a special exemption. The 15-foot, because they've stipulated it's going to be storage, so they're being upfront about it, but still, if it's just a standard parking lot, then 15 is acceptable.
If it was a parking lot, yes.
Understood, I'm getting my semantics of this straight. And the petitioner has stipulated they would put a berm and evergreens on the north, basically any side that goes towards the north and or east sides. Mr. Huber, would you say that is what you stipulated is, if I'm looking at the aerial plan of what came from Mark, that kind of angled area that goes northeast and then the total east side, you would put a berm along all of that along with screening?
Yep, that's accurate. That's what Mr. Wedding just indicated, that the frontage on Heather Park Drive and then the property line between this property and the copy image property, they would agree to berm and screening from a landscaping standpoint to minimize any of those visual effects. Correct.
Brandon, we can't put conditions on mowing every 2 weeks or anything, can we? I'm being facetious, sorry.
Sean, how far over the 50% are they?
virtually at 100. I mean, because they're meeting, with the variance, they'd be meeting all the setbacks, so they're filling the developable area, so. Minus the drive aisles if you really want to get technical, I guess, but.
Minus what?
The drive aisles if you really want to get technical with it, but.
All right, is there any questions from the board for staff or any more discussion, or I'll entertain a motion?
So I guess we can put conditions of it has to have screening, right?
On two sides are gonna.
Two sides, well, that's what they say, but.
Yeah.
I would suggest that the order that you do it in would be the special use first, deal with that, and then the variance, you know, if you were inclined to grant it, to put a condition in addition to the landscaping and such that you're discussing on the approval of the special use.
Understood. So, the best course of action is if anyone's looking to do a motion, is do a special use, which we send to the county council with a favorable, unfavorable, or no recommendation. And then we vote on we're the final vote on the variance itself or anything else that they want for the parking side of things, and that's where we can add the conditions onto. So the special use is pretty cut and dry. That's a favorable, unfavorable, or no recommendation. And then we move on the variance.
Can we ask them questions again?
Sure. If you need
They can ask
clarification.
questions of whoever they
Yeah,
want.
if you need
It's
clarification,
just
yes, you can ask
they could-
questions.
Well, so I guess here's my question. Is there anything, aside from the recommendations that we put on there, that they do have to have screening, they do have to, I mean, we can approve or deny the variance, right?
Correct.
Is there any, I guess my question is there anything that you guys would accept?
Well, I would not suggest that that's how you ask it.
No,
If you
I
have
guess I don't
specific
know how I
questions
don't
for
know how I'm
someone
trying to
in the
ask it. Is
audience,
there
you
a-
can pull them back to the podium and ask,
guess-
get
So if
information
You have
from
an idea.
them.
So if you have an idea about what you would envision is acceptable to you to let this go, you could ask, you can ask the people if that would be acceptable, but then that may not matter in the long run though as well too, so.
Is this a true industrial park?
I believe, yeah, it's zoned I, right?
I can say that it's zoned I
it's zoned I,
industrial.
yeah, so it's
So
industrial.
if it's zoned industrial park, it's an industrial park, period.
It's very nice, yeah.
It's a nice one.
Yeah.
But you don't usually find, some of them look like doctor's offices almost. You don't usually find that in an industrial park. When you go to Elkhart, you don't see it.
No,
When you see an industrial park, you see an industrial park.
Which was the intent of, not the intent of, yes, I guess, it depends, so.
Yeah, I don't know what the intent was by
The developers, right?
the developer when they made it quote-unquote an industrial park.
So I'll go back to our three tenants, or, well, on the variances, there's 4 on the special exemptions. So, and I think that's where Abby was going next, right?
No, but I like where you're going. Let's go your way. All right, the approval will not be injurious to the public health, safety, morals, or general welfare.
Yep. So there you have, I mean, will the proposed use be injurious to the public health, safety, comfort, community, moral standards, convenience, or general welfare? Will it injure or adversely affect the use or value of adjacent areas? Will it be consistent with the character of the district it is in, is located in land uses, and is compatible with our comprehensive plan? So that's the special use side of it. Is it?
not in all cases.
Yeah, I mean, yes and no.
Yes and no, because they allowed it.
That's why it comes before us to figure that out.
Because they allow it at the entrance when they're renting the place that's owned by the other people.
I don't know, that's part of the whole industrial park. That's Capri's place,
Okay,
as he
but they
stipulated.
do allow storage at the factory because there's storage around the factory.
Correct,
And it's stored right up next to the road,
Correct.
which is also parking lot.
correct.
So if they're gonna want to say that it's not a parking lot, then how do we enforce what's already happening?
That would be a issue for the
These guys.
industrial, no, because no, because that's.
Well, no, they're saying it can't be classed as a parking lot, what we're voting on.
Oh, Well, they must, well, since it has a
Because they're not
building,
moving the vehicles often enough.
since it has buildings, probably all considered parking lot, they're just using it for storage. That's the,
There you go.
that's the idiosyncrasy there.
So if they would've left it all dirt and gravel, then no lines, they could just put them anywhere.
No.
No, they couldn't.
You're being very helpful, sir.
I know I am.
Well, I guess for me, it goes back to what they're doing now doesn't necessarily mean that's what they'll do with this current lot as well too, I guess.
Well, correct, because what they got now is not theirs.
No, I mean where they're producing product on that
Right.
lot across the street. I
Right,
mean,
and that looked fairly well manicured and all the above, so why would they deter from that going across the road? The other lot that's in the book here,
yeah, the rental lot.
the rental lot is not their lot. Why would they spend a bunch of money fixing the fence and doing all the stuff there?
Again, I'll go back to the four tenants. Will it be injurious? Will it adversely affect? Will it be consistent with the character of the district? And is it within our comprehensive plan?
And just as a reminder for motion purposes, your rules have like a weird special thing for special uses where the first motion should either be for favorable or unfavorable, not a no recommendation for the
Correct.
first go.
We've got to go one way, then we got to go the other, then we can go the third way.
So we gotta decide what we're doing with the county council.
So right now, yeah, we're trying to figure out right now whether we want to send this to the county council with a favorable recommendation, unfavorable recommendation, allow them a special use to have storage of more than 50% of the facility. Project area. Now, okay, so, can you go back to the aerial that shows the entire, platted, there? Okay. What's across railroad tracks?
Yeah, same thing. Exactly.
Universal forest.
No, but what's right there with them?
That's what I'm saying. Okay, so that's my portion of this.
You don't even have to go across the railroad track. Look what they got going on right there, right now, in
No, I
that
get that.
industrial park.
But if we're talking about the complete, we're talking about, is it injurious to the area, or is it in keeping with the rest of the area? Look at the area. Now, if you go west, it's a little bit different than if you go east.
Right, exactly. You got that when you go downtown South Bend.
Agreed. Again, I will entertain a motion to send it with a favorable, unfavorable recommendation.
I say, since they allow it now, we send it favorably.
Is that a motion?
Make your
I
motion.
make a motion that we send it favorably.
We have a
Because-
motion. Do we have a
favorably,
second?
Because they allow it now.
We have a motion made by Mr. Schaefer. Is there a second?
This is Christine Deutscher. I'll second.
We have a motion made by Mr. Schaefer and a second by Ms. Deutscher to send this to the county council with a favorable recommendation. Would you call for the vote, please?
Mr. Hawley?
No,
Mr. Moffett?
Yes.
Mr. Ritzma?
No.
Mr. Schaefer?
Yes.
Mr. Tavernier?
No.
Ms. Deutscher?
Yes.
Mr. Vellman?
Good thing we don't play poker.
My dilemma when it comes to these types of things is they could do everything they want to do right now. They just want to make it a little bit bigger. They want to make the project area a little bit bigger than what is allowed by
Right,
current.
they can't stop them.
Yeah, so,
They just can stop them from the size they want to go.
right.
I mean, they probably wouldn't have purchased this property. I mean, they probably purchased this property for something like this. So
Right.
using more than 50% of it for something like this.
Correct. So that's that's when I look at these is, okay, what could they do? What would it change? In reality, we don't change anything because they could still put the same chain link fence up. They could still store products in a certain size of that project area and not have to do any of the improvements they're talking about.
Right. They can still do what they want to do,
Right.
just not to the size that they want to do it.
Right. Yes, based on the testimony presented here today, the Area Board of Zoning Appeals, after careful considerations, will send this special use to the county council with a favorable recommendation. All right, now we got to talk about the variance. which we can add stipulations to. You already had that started, so why don't you continue?
I just voted no.
No, doesn't matter.
That's a special use.
That's special use. Now we gotta talk about fencing.
I understand.
So what they have already stipulated is the berm and the required screening in front, additional berm and screening on the northeast and east sides, and then obviously all the other scrub that goes around there will shield it from the south and west sides. I'll entertain a motion to allow them to have their project area within 15 feet of the street.
And if you want to make the screening on that northwest property or the northeast property line, the equivalent of what's required to the front, that's what the ordinance recognizes as type 2 screening,
Type
so.
2.
That is very easy to us and for us to enforce, to go back to, like, when we're reviewing a landscape plan, to say, here's what you need to do.
Yeah, because we just say berm, they can put a 1.5 berm and a little,
What is
hosta
type two?
plants.
What is type 2?
So type 2, if they want to go with the berm, it'll be a 4 to 6 foot berm and then 2 evergreens per every 30 feet of lot line.
There you go.
Evergreens, not shrubs.
Yes.
Yes.
The other thing, if there was the sentiment on the board to do this, if you're requiring screening along the north and northeast property lines, there was a lot of discussion around screening. Well, along the other lot lines, you could require an opaque fence outside of or at a maximum height, or at a minimum height outside of the front yard setback. I mean, that's a condition. Brandy, correct me if I'm wrong.
Right, our dilemma, so if we say that a chain link fence is not allowed and we require an opaque or fence you can't go in front of or see-through, the first part in the right-of-way, it can only be 3 feet then instead of the standard 4 feet because it has to have a sight line, correct?
One of the reasons, yeah.
Lack of a better- At least one of the reasons. If you wanted to require a screening or a slatting inside of a chain link fence, or if you want to require a privacy fence or a wooden fence or whatever, that is a condition we can add to the variance as well, too.
Good point.
Just putting our options out there.
Where do you guys think about the 15-foot setback? I think that's awful close to the road. For neighboring properties.
Well, but if there was
I don't know if 50 feet is required, should be required, but I feel like 15 is very close to the road.
Was that a motion?
It's not a motion, I'm asking what your
Oh,
thoughts are.
I didn't quite catch what you were saying. Could you say that again, please?
I said, what are your thoughts on the 15-foot
Oh.
setback request? I feel like it's too close to the road.
Well, again, if they had a building on it,
Correct. If there was a building,
it could go or
it would be allowed, but since there's no primary building,
They could put a driveway on the outside.
a driveway on the outside. Oh, and not have
15
park,
foot, Not have parking the first
yeah,
25 feet.
yeah, you're correct. Or we can require them to go back to 50, and then that's where they stand.
All they're
how
saying,
many cars are actually going to be on this lot?
I think it was
100.
100,
Time.
100.
get chips.
yeah, I think it stipulated 100 vehicles could be parked in this area. It's in the notes somewhere.
Well, it says there's.
It was 100, yes.
spaces.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's 101 spaces. I don't know.
101 spaces.
You'll have to-
Yeah. So it'll never be full. By rights.
You say that.
I say by rights.
The pet industry is a multi-billion-dollar industry, and
Oh, yeah, they can fill a field.
when I was out there, it looks like they make a lot of these for Petco, so that's a major chain as well, too, so. I believe we also mentioned something about a condition on no other product storage out there. Is that correct, or does that fall into it?
Yeah, that was staff's
If,
recommendation.
depending on how anyone makes a motion, there's also part of that motion can be a stipulation that only vehicles can be stored, no other products.
Oh, yeah.
So they can't have the health park there. Walk across the street, then use the lot they got around the building to park more vehicles
Correct.
for inventory.
Could, but they couldn't store skids, they couldn't store trash, couldn't put a dumpster
Right,
out there.
you couldn't store inanimate, non-vehicle
Correct.
type.
Okay. I make a motion to deny the variance as presented.
We have a motion, do we have a second to deny the variance as requested?
This is Christine Deutscher. I'll second.
We have a motion and a second to deny the variance as requested. Would you call for the vote, please? So this would be if you do not want to allow the variance, it's a yes. If you don't want to deny the variance, it's a no.
It's
Right?
the opposite. Yeah.
Correct.
Say that again.
If you want to-
Denial is yes.
Yes, denial of variance is yes,
As presented.
as presented, correct. Yep. Would you call for the vote, please?
Mr. Hawley?
Yes.
Mr. Moffett?
No.
Mr. Ritzma?
Yes.
Mr. Schaefer?
No,
Mr. Tavernier?
Yes.
Ms. Deutscher?
Yes.
Mr. Villman?
No. Based on the testimony presented here today, the Area Board of Zoning Appeals, after careful consideration, finds the variance denied and will issue written finding of the facts. Thank you, everyone, for their time. All right. Okay, reading of petition number 5, please.
Location, unaddressed parcels of 2 acres, more or less, to the north and abutting 300 South Main Street. Owner, Hydro Extrusion North America LLC and Town of North Liberty. Requested actions. Special exception, used to allow active park and civic facility in R1, single-family residential district. Variances, 1, from section 4.04 to allow a 5-foot residential buffer where 25 feet is required, and 2, from section 8.06 to allow 0 parking island where 1 off-street parking island per 15 parking spaces is required. Zoning R, single-family district, North Liberty.
Okay, this is Ryan Fellows again. Okay. The property is principally concerned with the town's town hall and community center, which is currently zoned commercial, which is the red in the middle. And then along the north side of this is zoned R single family. And that's where their parking lot is right now. Here's a picture facing the east. You can see their water tower is also on the property on the edge of it. And then this is back facing from the other direction with the Town Hall Community Center on the left side of the screen. And you see there's a non-motorized path along the right side. What's being proposed is to move that path further along to the north side of the property and take the existing 25 parking spaces and expand that to
139 spaces.
139 spaces. Thank you.
It's here 143.
143?
Yeah, it says 143.
Oh, okay.
I'm pretty sure.
Including 6 ADA spaces, so maybe you didn't have your ADAs.
Okay.
Okay. I have, maybe Mike, you can clear this up. I have 139 spaces, including 6 ADA spaces. Is that inclusive, or do you need to add 6 on top of the 139?
I believe it includes the 6 ADA spaces.
Okay. So a total of 139, 6 of which are ADA spaces. Okay, thank you. Continuing on, the point of adding all this parking space is to essentially focus on being allowed to be a polling place again. This has previously been a polling place, and then recently the county has taken it away because it was insufficient number of parking spaces. And so the town is very interested in getting that polling place returned to their town hall. And this adding of parking spaces is meant to do that. And in order to accommodate getting the high number of parking spaces on the property, they want to relocate the tree islands to beyond the parking lot. It's conceivable, the way the definition of the zoning ordinance, that you could consider some of these trees as maybe meeting that, but not all of them. And when you look at the overall requirements for trees, in addition to the parking island trees, there would also be a need for streetscape landscaping along the street frontage. And when you add up that mathematically, when you round up for each function, it ends up with 11 spaces. They're providing 10 trees. So it's very close to meeting that threshold. And the special use permit, flipping over to that, this is already being used as a civic area. It's already being used. Okay. For the function that it's being used for, sorry, I lost my place here. Okay. It's to be used as an active park and a civic facility is a special use. And it's obviously being used as a civic facility. It is somewhere with a trail in it right now. And then, so we've kind of addressed the special use permit. We've addressed the parking islands. And lastly is there's a 5-foot residential buffer setback where 25 is required. And flipping back to the site plan, that is that trail along the north side. And along that north side, there's also a platted right-of-way, or a platted alley, which is a right-of-way, which adds additional buffer space there too. But just based on the nature of the, along the north edge of the parking lot, they're required to have a row of shrubs to break up the site for the homes to the north. And so that is going to be functionally adding a visual barrier that'll help with that overall, even though the setback number isn't the same, functionally it's very similar. I'd be happy to answer any questions, plus obviously Mike Huber with Avon Marsh is available to answer questions as well.
So just to add a little more clarity on the required parking lot landscaping that Ryan went over, with 100, we'll say approximately 139 spaces, for every 15 spaces, you need one interior parking landscape island, 75 square feet in area with one tree. Rather than plopping them in the middle of the parking lots to maximize spaces because of the need to have the parking for the vote center, they have redistributed them elsewhere on site and are more or less providing the required number of trees, just not within the parking lot.
Thank you, Abby.
Yeah, sorry.
You're doing great.
Any questions for staff? All right. Mr. Huber, anything you'd like to add?
Sure, thank you. Mike Huber, Avon Marsh Consultants, 315 West Jefferson Boulevard, South Bend. Just to summarize our request here, as you saw in the zoning map, there's a lot of mixed zoning parcels in this general vicinity. You've got some industrial where the town's water treatment plant and the parking lot that is owned by the town but is used by Hydro to the south of the community building. The community building itself is zoned commercial, and then the area where the trail is and part of the current parking area is currently zoned residential. Rather than coming in and asking to rezone the residential area to a higher intensity use. We recognized that the parking lot, the residentially zoned parking lot area would be permitted for civic uses and active recreation uses by special use. And so we opted to come and ask for a special use permit to allow the parking lot, effectively the parking lot serves the civic use, and relocating the trail is currently there, but the trail represents the active park, active recreation use portion of our special use. So we wanted to bring that into conformance with the zoning ordinance, and we wanted to be able to have a parking lot that supported the civic use of the building as it's used as a community building without rezoning the whole area into a higher intensity commercial use. We thought that was a nice way to still preserve some of the residential buffer yards status to the areas to the north and to the west. As mentioned, we are pushing the trail to the north as a way to provide that additional buffer between the parking lot and the residential area to the north. We know that trails, this trail in particular is extremely popular and well used in North Liberty, and it will bring additional value to that residential area to the north as well by keeping that as the buffer between their in the parking lot. In sizing the parking lot, we looked at this, the towns and the county's ordinances didn't necessarily address the required minimum number of parking spaces for this kind of use. So we looked at the city of Mishawaka. They use 1 space for every 3 people of capacity. The building, the community space uses, there's 2 community rooms. One has a maximum capacity use of 300 people. One has a maximum capacity of 50 people. So all told, you could have a maximum use of 350 people. So if you take that and you divide it by 3, you got 117 required parking spaces just for looking at serving the community space use. The spaces behind are additional spaces to allow for the municipal uses for the clerk's office and some of the other utility office businesses, customers as well. So between the 10 to 15 of those spaces plus the 117 to meet the requirements of the building itself, we're in that 120-ish area, and we wanted to make sure they were informed pretty specifically that there will be heavy voting turnout requirements to be able to park when the voting office was left, and that really has been a driver for this, is to be able to get this back as a location. So we did want to make sure we provided an adequate amount of parking spaces for those peak voting demand times, noting that we have had significantly higher voter turnout in the last couple of presidential elections in particular. So we want to make sure we're able to accommodate those adequately. And relating to that, the variance for the setback, again, there's a 25-foot required paving setback or residential buffer yard setback. We're proposing to just fill that with the trail. In the town zoning ordinance, it actually starts from the boundary of the property, the nearest residentially zoned property, which is on the other side of the platted alley. I think that's what Ryan was talking about a little bit. So we know we have a 16-foot alley. That's additional buffer space in between the trail and the parking lot area as well. So we just wanted to make sure we were within compliance of pushing the trail within 5 feet of that north property line before you get even to the alley. So that summarizes our request today. I did want to mention too, we were trying to minimize the size of the parking, recognizing how large it was and the number of spaces we're providing. And that's why we requested the ability to provide for the landscaping islands outside and really kind of condense the amount of paved parking area and not spread that out by having 10 or 11 additional parking islands inside the parking lot. We wanted to condense the paved area and maximize the space around the parking lot with the required trees and landscaping, and we'll also utilize a good portion of that for the stormwater retention for the parking area as well. I'm happy to answer any additional questions.
On the site plan that I have, so you're saying that the current alley that's platted is 16 foot, plus you're gonna have the 5-foot trail, plus you're gonna have the evergreens that are on that north side between the parking lot, correct?
So it's 16 feet of the alley, then there's 5 feet to the trail, then there's 10 feet of trail, and then there's additional
Oh.
space between that and the shrubs, right? That will be the parking lot screening. That's correct.
I'm not at work, I shouldn't have to do math. So 16 plus 10 plus 5, all right. So the 25-foot buffer that is required is not gonna be there because of the way the actual lot will be laid out, but with what you're doing, you're creating that buffer considerably between this new parking lot and the residential to the north.
Correct, that's correct.
Is that north side with all those evergreens gonna be a berm or just basically shrubs?
Those will be shrubs as required in the landscape part of the ordinance to screen that parking lot from those areas to the north,
Okay.
correct?
Any questions for the petitioner?
I would like to mention, I do have Town Clerk Vicky Kitchen from North Liberty is also on the Zoom call today as well.
All right. I think we're good. Thank you, sir. The public portion is now open. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of or have questions about this petition? Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to this petition? Seeing none, the public portion is now closed. Really funny if the town clerk opposed it. Sorry. Any additional comments, questions, or I'll entertain a motion? So again, special exemption of or special use, I should say, of an active park or civic facility that we will send with either a favorable or unfavorable, and then second after that will be the variance to allow the buffers and 0 parking islands for the variances.
Bob Hawley, I will make a motion to send this special use request with a favorable recommendation to the county council, is it?
Town council.
Town council of
North Liberty.
North Liberty, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
I'll second.
We have a motion made by Mr. Holly and a second by Mr. Tavernier to send this with a favorable recommendation. Would you call for the vote, please?
Ms. Deutscher?
Yes.
Mr. Moffett?
Yes.
Mr. Ritzma?
Yes.
Mr. Schaefer?
Yes.
Mr. Hawley?
Yes.
Mr. Tavernier?
Yes.
Mr. Veldman?
Yes, based on the testimony presented here today, the Area Board of Zoning Appeals, after careful consideration, will forward this request to the town council with a favorable recommendation. All right, I'll entertain a motion on the variances.
Variances.
5-foot residential buffer versus 25, and no islands where there would be 15 required, but they're doing trees on the outside instead of on the inside.
This is
Does your
Christine
office
Deutscher.
make any recommendation on that?
We recommend it favorably for those.
Okay.
Don't have to drive around them trees in.
Mr. Deutscher, you said something?
Yeah, I was gonna make a motion to approve the variances as requested.
Second that.
I would suggest that you condition that on the approval of the special use at the council level.
Okay, so I'm gonna make a motion to approve the variances on the condition of the special use.
Being
Sec-
approved, yes.
Being approved, yeah.
I'll second that, thank you.
We have a motion and a second. Would you call for the vote, please?
Mr. Hawley?
Yes.
Mr. Ritzma?
Yes.
Mr. Schaefer?
Yes.
Mr. Tavernier?
Yes.
Ms. Deutscher?
Yes.
Mr. Moffett?
Yes.
Mr. Veldman?
Anybody ever had to plow around those parking islands inside a parking lot?
That's the only reason why I said yes.
Then you're right.
Yes. After, based on the testimony presented here today, the Area Board of Zoning Appeals, after careful consideration, finds the variances granted and will issue written finding of the facts. Mr. Huber, go back on vacation. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you all for your time.
All right. We have the reading of petition number 6, please.
Location, 57239 Pear Road. Owner, Daryl Chamberlain Revocable Living Trust. Requested action, variance 1 from section 154.070 sub C 1A. 1, to allow 3,502 square feet of detached accessory buildings where maximum of 1,924 square feet is permitted for existing accessory buildings to be included on a new lot 3 acres in size in a proposed subdivision. Zoning R Single Family District County.
You're the one that has to type these up after the fact, aren't you? She speaks so well for herself.
This is Sean Klein, Area Plan Commission staff. So really what we have here is a proposed subdivision to separate the house and the existing outbuildings from the larger agriculturally used portion of the property. As a result, a 3-acre parcel is going to be created that will have accessory structures whose cumulative square footage exceeds what is permitted by the zoning ordinance. So these are pre-existing structures that we are discussing here. And when we turn to the state law criteria, staff finds that approval will not be injurious to the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community because these are pre-existing barns and sheds, and really all that's happening is the property line is being adjusted around them. We also find that the use and value of the area adjacent to the property included in the variance will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner. If you see how the lot lines are going to be drawn out. The larger lot actually abuts the small residential lot with the outbuildings to the west, north, and south. So there's very minimal impact in these structures continuing to exist on any properties that are outside of this subdivision. Both of those will be owned by the petitioner initially, and once one or both are sold, the buyer will know of the existence of these structures and will buy into it knowing that there are excess accessory structures on the residential lot. And if we turn to the strict application of the terms of this chapter, we find that these would result in practical difficulty because they would essentially compel existing structures to be torn down just for the property owner to complete a subdivision that separates the residential portion from the farmed portion of the property, which effectively could increase the value of both properties. I should add that unlike a lot of these splits that you see, this is zoned R single family, so we don't have a lot area or frontage issue here. It's just the accessory structure square footage.
But on the proposed Lot 2, the 84.88 acres, that would have, you couldn't subdivide that anymore because it would then have frontage problems, correct? Because they only have, what, 100 and then 152 feet, correct?
Technically, you could get another.
No, you can only do one more, though.
Oh, one more, yes, yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
so right now, they've
exactly.
got.
Right.
They have 87 acres, so technically that's 4 buildable lots, but with not enough frontage. But even the second lot.
Well, it's all zoned R single family.
Oh,
so
I'm
it's
sorry.
really just the frontage that's going to matter here.
Gotcha.
But
Okay.
yeah, technically it has the frontage that there could be a third
I'm
lot.
sorry. I thought this was A. I'm sorry. My fault. It's residential. Okay. Any questions for Sean? Mr. Lang, I think you might intentionally go last, I suppose, since we've all been through the ringer on a few other ones leading up to this, but would you like
to make mine short and sweet.
anything to add to this petition?
Thank you, that's enough.
On this one here, I would just like to add, the original farmhouse sat on 1 acre and most of the outbuildings were on the larger parcel. Mr. Chamberlain has passed away and the adjacent farmer is interested in picking up all of the tillable portion of that farm. And then they're going to be finding a buyer for the house. And they wanted to put all of the outbuildings on the house parcel. And the configuration that you see accomplishes that. And the variance that we're asking for will allow those buildings to be on that parcel.
Any questions for Mr. Lang? Public portion is now open. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of or have questions about this petition? Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to this petition? Seeing none, the public portion is now closed. I'll entertain a motion, or is there any additional discussion on this matter?
Well, I'll make a motion to approve the request for the property located at 57-239 Pear Road as presented.
I'll second.
There you go.
We have a motion made by Mr. Holly and a second made by Mr. Tavernier to approve as requested. Can you call for the vote, please?
Ms. Deutscher?
Yes.
Mr. Moffett?
Yes.
Mr. Ritzma?
Yes.
Mr. Schaefer?
Yes.
Mr. Holly?
Yes.
Mr. Tavernier?
Yes.
Mr. Veldman?
Yes, based on the testimony presented here today, the Area Board of Zoning Appeals, after careful consideration, finds the variance granted and will issue and find the facts. Can we reading petition number 7, please?
Location 62851 Miami Highway, also known as 62940 Turkey Trail, and unaddressed 33.5 acres, more or less, abutting parcel to east. Owner, Van and Suzanne Gurley. Requested actions, variance, 1 from section 154.092 sub A to allow a lot area of 12 acres where a minimum of 20 acres is required for Lot 1 of proposed one lot subdivision. Zoning A Agricultural District, County.
Sean Klein, Area Plan Commission staff. So what we have here is essentially 2 existing parcels. You see that line that cuts from north to the south there. The portion at the south end contains a house and some lawn area, and then just some kind of natural looking weed scrub. And then to the north, you'll see where the vegetation changes, and I think that coincides with the land that's currently being leased to a farmer for cultivation. So what they're proposing to do here is a subdivision that essentially draws a property line from east to west, separating those uses. So it'll end up with a 12-acre lot with the house, and then a 39-plus acre lot to the north there. Since there is 54 acres of land to work with here and enough frontage, by right, there could be 2 buildable lots. Through this subdivision, they'll have the one buildable lot that contains the existing house, and then they'll have an outlot to the north there. If we turn to the state law criteria, staff finds that the approval will not be injurious to public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community because there's no scenario where this granting of this variance will result in the creation of an additional buildable lot beyond what is permitted by right in the agricultural district. Furthermore, we find that the use and value of the area adjacent to the property included in the variance will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner, because once again, it won't allow for an additional residential use in the agricultural district. And when we look at strict application of the terms of this chapter, resulting in practical difficulties, so they are creating this 12-acre residential lot, leaving us with the 39.4-acre outlot. If the strict application of the terms of the chapter would require them to break off 20 acres, which would only leave 4 acres of farmland, so there's a little bit of an additional agricultural protection built into the deal. So as such, staff recommends approval and happy to answer any questions.
Any questions?
Yeah, what's the end goal here?
We'll have to ask Mr. Lang that.
Sean did a great summary there. I think he deserves a raise. He summarized my report completely. What you see on the aerial right there.
On this, in this
Chair going
jurisdiction.
higher?
As he indicated, what's being tilled will become our outlot, and what you see mowed yard and in monthly mowed area around the house area there would become the new lot. They're doing just a little bit of estate planning and would like to, keep that area with the house and make the tillable portion in the future available to be sold to any farmer that would be interested in it.
Because how many acres was that leaving in the outlot? I'm sorry, where's that on there?
You're just short by a partial.
There's
Oh,
about
yeah.
49 or 39 and a half
I was gonna say,
once
'cause
you
you
take
got-
the right of ways off.
You got 2 road accesses, so you have enough frontage, but you're short on the 40 acres to get 2 out of it then.
Correct.
Gotcha.
What's just north there,
No, I know.
and that was done since the 20-acre law was put in. That's the old Schaefer place, and it's a bunch of 10-acre lots. So don't tell me it can't be, that's why I say, what's the end goal here?
Well, but they're designating an outlot, so someone would have to come back to us again if they wanted to subdivide it even further again, correct, or no?
No, what is
That
the
is
little
correct.
Center Township and some of the areas where you got all these smaller lots that have been allowed over the years?
It's 20 acres throughout the agricultural district in St. Joseph County.
Even like when you get into South Penn along Jackson Road and all that, the newer houses?
It could be very well zoned R there, but if it's zoned A, it's 20 acres. So they're either prior to that rule or they got a variance at some point in
So
time.
they went-
Or they're illegal.
Or they could go out, well, yeah, it's kind of like I got a piece that's got a piece that's owned residential that there's nothing on.
Right.
It's just, it was done way back, and
But in this case, since he's designated as an outlot, it's not buildable, and they'd have to come back for permission to make it buildable, correct?
well, and then they also, when they're making the 12 acres, they're making it so you only can go to, like Farm Credit to get a loan to buy the house when they pass.
Oh, because it's less than 20 acres?
No, because it's over 5. Because it's over 5 acres, you can't get a conventional mortgage on it no longer. Banks either got to carry it or the Farm Credit's got to carry it. So you're back to land bank type stuff. And then like you said, I'm surprised that he didn't make it a 40 just for the 20, but there's no reason to have that because as you see, it's been allowed how many different times, and some of them lots are just getting built on now, them 10-acre lots.
And some of those over on the other street aren't even 10 acres.
Right. Well, them are old lots on the east side.
Oh, but on
the
west
west
side.
side, them are all new lots since the 20-acre law was in place. That was all done since
Jackie
then.
built a lot of those, yeah.
This is where I think they need to look at their ordinance.
We were talking about that earlier.
Yes, we were.
That would be, so they are looking at ordinances, you can have public comment on that and give your opinion.
Well, my comment would be take the whole mess of it and make it into 3 acres and put a private road down the middle.
That's not what we're being asked at the moment.
I know that.
Moving right along.
Is there anything else that we have questions for Mr. Lang? All right. The public portion is now open. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of or have questions about this petition? There's nobody on Zoom. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to this petition?
Not sure. I need clarification.
Okay, so that, we're in that in-between phase. Go right ahead.
Thank you for waiting.
Yeah, thanks for
No
your
problem.
patience.
My name is David Frick. Property is 62919 Turkey Trail, which has been in my family since 1854, by the way. Your proposal with your red line showing to the left to Turkey Trail. On the MACOG map, it shows that parcel with the Miami address of 62851.
Yeah, that is.
And I apologize, I didn't,
Sorry, I didn't know you were.
no, I'm sorry.
No,
I
go ahead.
obviously was not as well prepared as I thought I was going to be, or I would have brought each one of you a printout of what I printed this morning. But this morning on the MACOG map, it shows to the left of the red line as the Miami address.
Rich, is that our 62851 that we show?
Yes.
Yes.
But I've been told MACOG's not right.
Yeah, I know that.
And this.
Hot water using MACOG once.
And yeah, government is government.
Yeah.
It's been confirmed with the county surveyor that the address we advertised here, the Miami Highway address, is the official address. It's also widely known as 6294 Turkey Trail, but as far as the county is concerned, the Miami Highway address is correct. New addresses will be assigned once the subdivision is completed regardless, so.
Okay.
So there is a little bit of muddiness there with the actual address, but it is basically that top lot that we're talking about, the top open area, so.
That all being discovered, this request is for the building of residential homes?
No, not in this case. So what this is actually doing is, if you see the yellow area that's outlined there.
Yes, sir.
The lower green portion is being sectioned out from the upper yellow portion. The upper yellow portion is being designated an outlot, which does not allow anything to be built onto it.
State that again, please.
So the upper portion that's currently tilled.
Yes.
Will be designated an outlot. So you see how it says proposed outlot A?
Okay.
That would not allow a house to be built on it without other special things to happen after the fact. Correct me if I'm wrong in this, staff.
You're wrong. It's
Okay.
over 20 acres.
No, it's not.
Yeah, it is. It'll be 39.
Oh, I'm sorry, yes, 39. But it's an outlet. Outlots can't have anything built on them.
Sean, could you advise on the approval process to replat that from an outlot to a buildable lot?
See?
Yes, it would require to go through a additional subdivision in order to convert that to a buildable lot. Under the circumstances, since it does have in excess of 20 acres and 600 feet of frontage, it is something that could possibly be done without a variance. However, there would be that additional step of an additional subdivision to be approved by the plat committee.
So what's happening currently is it's creating a non-buildable lot, and there would be a mechanism to create a buildable later if they chose to. But the same fact also is as well too, the way they're dividing it, they could divide that entire lot into two lots that would both be buildable as well too. So now we're sectioning out the tillable portion as an outlot to make sure that it stays as tillable area. That's our goal. That's actually the petitioner's goal, I should say, not our goal.
But the red line that goes
North
north
to
and
south.
south, not north and south, but
Yeah.
close enough. The red line is the original property line
Right.
of the Gurley Leap property, or not Leap, Gurley, Van Gurley.
Van
property.
Gurley.
Correct, that is the
initial
existing
so
property
the-
line.
The whole deal is he owns all four pieces. He's just drawing a new line.
Yeah, two
to
pieces,
marry
right.
To marry the back piece to the house, so he has a bigger piece to subdivide later. I didn't say that out loud.
You shouldn't have said that out loud, no, but yes. So basically, it's taking two lots and changing the existing lot lines to different lot lines.
Because then he'll marry them together, and there'll only be two lots.
There's only two lots right now.
Yeah, but the line goes the other way.
Yeah, you got
Yeah.
a very small sliver on the left side, and then that
Well,
kind
no,
of
the small sliver's 20.
Nevada area.
Be so confused right now.
I bet you look that up, I bet you that small sliver's 20.
It might be.
There are two parcels presently.
Yeah, there's only two parcels.
Yeah, with a total of 54 acres. So any way you look at this, they're not getting more than two lots out of it without.
Oh, no, I get
Okay.
that. I get that.
Okay.
I was just getting, he's taking a 20 and making it a 12.
Maybe. We don't know what that is.
I'm sorry. My only concern is the small little parcel with, right next to the word turkey.
Right.
That's my place.
Right.
And I like looking out across an empty field without looking at houses.
So we're essentially getting rid of the red line that goes north and south, and we're just cutting it off grass to tillable, right?
That's
what we're doing.
correct. That's
Basically.
At this point, what
Yeah.
we're
Which I don't
doing
understand.
doesn't change what you'll be looking at. It just changes the lot lines on how they're designated as a parcel.
Or Van's ability to decide he wants to build a house across from me.
No, because right now they're gonna designate it as an outlot, which doesn't allow it to be built upon. There'd be another step they would have to go to bring it back from an outlot to a buildable lot. So not right now. They're
I
not
have nothing
proposing.
against Van Gurley. He's one of the greatest neighbors in the world you could ever have and one of the best friends. It just, my concern and a couple of the others on the road who couldn't be here.
Now, we can't speak to their intentions, but the way that they've written up this proposal is that lot does not become a buildable lot at this point.
To the left of the red line.
That red line's going away.
To the left of the grass.
To the
To
left,
of the grass.
to the north
right
of the,
now.
Yes, to the north of the grass, where it's tillable field, will stay tillable field the way this is written.
This line,
And I- and-
here is going away.
Okay.
And there's gonna be a line that comes through here.
Correct.
So this is gonna be an outlot A, which is going to technically right now not be a buildable lot unless he goes through other steps. This is going to become one lot, this is going to become one lot.
he's just adding to the east of his house.
Correct.
The green,
Getting rid
of the
this
green
line
space.
right here and bringing it right across here. This red line right now is going away,
yes.
okay? Erase it. This line here is gonna come back across here then.
What,
So this is 139.4 acre lot, and then this is 12 something, right?
Yeah, a little over 12.
Okay, so that's what it's gonna be, right there.
I have no opposition, thank you.
Thanks for your time, sir.
Thanks for being here.
Good job sticking it out today.
I just don't understand one thing.
What?
Thanks for paying attention, DJ.
Appeal means change property lines.
Do what?
Why do they gotta come here to change their property lines when he owns the whole mess?
That's the way the world works. I don't know what to tell you.
Can I make a motion?
Make a motion.
No.
Oh, okay.
Not yet.
With that, the public portion is now
Oh,
closed.
yeah, we need that.
Any additional comments, questions, or I'll entertain a motion.
Now make your motion.
Now you can make a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve, numbers, variance as proposed.
Second that.
Wow. We have a motion made by Mr. Tavernier and a second made by Mr. Holly to approve the request as proposed. Would you call for the vote, please?
Ms. Deutscher?
Yes.
Mr. Moffett?
Yes.
Mr. Ritzma?
Yes.
Mr. Schaefer?
No.
Mr. Holly?
Yes.
Mr. Tavernier?
Yes.
Mr. Veldman?
Yes. Based on the testimony presented here today, the Area Board of Zoning Appeals, after careful consideration, finds the variance granted and will issue written findings of the facts. Thank you, Mr. Lang. Have a great afternoon.
Thank you.
Yeah. Why are they here? We're just moving.
Items not requiring a public hearing. I have a finding of the facts for the September 8, 2021 Area Board of Zoning Appeal meeting. I will entertain a motion to approve as written.
So moved.
Second? You have to do a roll call because two people aren't here, right? Would you call for the vote, please?
Ms. Deutscher?
Yes.
Mr. Holly?
Yes.
Mr. Moffett?
Yes.
Mr. Ritzma?
Yes.
Mr. Schaefer?
Yes.
Mr. Tavernier?
Yes.
Mr. Veldman?
Yes. I have the minutes from the July 14th, 2021 Area Board of Zoning Appeal meeting. I'll entertain a motion to approve those as written.
If there are no revisions, Brandy says that these can be approved in one motion.
Or the 3 months?
I will entertain a motion for all 3
I'll
months.
make a motion that we approve the minutes as presented for the July 14th, 2021, August 11th, 2021, and September the 8th, 2021, Area Board of Zoning Appeal meetings.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. Would you call for the vote, please?
Ms. Deutscher?
Yes.
Mr. Holly?
Yes.
Mr. Moffett?
Yes.
Mr. Ritzma?
Yes.
Mr. Schaefer?
Yes.
Mr. Tavernier?
Yes.
Mr. Veldman?
Yes. Based on, no, never mind. Lastly, Mr. Schaefer. I won't be here the next 2 months.
2 months.
2 months.
What's your deal?
I got travel now in December as well, too, so you will be running the show, so everyone be prepared.
Yeah, it'll go over like a balloon.
Christine, Donnie, thank you for your time.
Everyone.
I'm fine.
Thank you.
Good.
I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second. Do we have to call for the vote on that, too?
There.
Sorry.
Just
That's
sign
all
it.
right.
Who seconded that, I'm sorry?
I'll second.
Oh, Donnie seconded it. Oh, I don't know. Sydney seconded it. Call for the vote, please.
Good times.
You guys tax me.
Ms. Deutscher?
Yes.
Mr. Hawley?
Yes.
Mr. Moffett?
Yes.
Mr. Ritzma?
Yes.
Mr. Schaefer?
Yeah.
Mr. Tavernier? Mr. Veldman?
Yes.
I almost said no, just for fun.
Thank you all for your time. Christine, how long do we have you still for?
I'll be here next month, so,
Well,
yeah.
it was a pleasure
December's
serving with
iffy,
you.
we'll see. Yes, thank you.
You guys have a great afternoon. Thank you.
Thanks all.
Bye.